Welcome to the start of another week. Yes, friends, we start something new today. Learn how to stall, but not stall as you think it. Short Takeoff and Landing is a brand new series, and we kickstart things tonight. Yes, I think it's 8 modules. I can't really remember, but we'll get through it, step by step. We'll learn things, do things. Mistakes will happen, Oh, terrible mistakes, but it'll be grand. It's all within the simulated environment we call Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, which is only great crack altogether. So, hope you had a great weekend. I was busy. Right, so, we went about wrapping the front of all the cabinets in the kitchen. Right. A terrible announcement to make. So we went about started to wrap them, with vinyl wrapping, right? Got all the vinyl rolls in, got all the fancy knives and friggin' Edward Scissorhands, and I even got a heat blower. A heat blower! Don't use it as a hairdryer, it'll burn your head. But ask me how, right? But anyway, started into that on Saturday morning, and about 5 hours in, we had completed one drawer. And it was the easiest drawer because there was no detailing on the front, right? So then we went about tackling the second drawer. Anyway, to make a very long story very short, I had absolute rage quit, broke things, threw them around the place and said, let's not worry, I said. I got on to B&Q. That's like your home base or home, what do you call it in America? The home thingy, right? Home Depot, right? Anyway, one of those, and ordered proper kitchen cabinets, the doors, right? I'm not wrapping that stuff. Did you see? We watched these TikTok videos and they're all like, yeah, look how clean your man can make it. Listen, these hands are not built for it. So, they're on the way. I get to use power tools, Milwaukee and things. Whoa! We got a raid already. Jesus! Cando is here with the raid of Candonians. Welcome in, guys. We're just getting started now. If you'd like to grab a beverage, I'm just telling them all about the stuff I get up to on a weekend. So we started with the kitchen. So instead of wrapping all of the doors, I've now bought new doors in the right colour. Yes. And I had to measure everything. And my measurements now, right, I'm taking... Hello? Right. I measured them to like 71.5 down, and we say, 51.5 across. But when you go onto the website, it's 71.7 down and 51.7 across. So I don't know who's right and who's wrong. This could be an absolute disaster. They could be 0.2 centimetres out. No! They'll be delivered before Halloween, I'm told. So, right. It could be grand. But that's what we got up to the weekend. Very busy, doing all sorts of things and, But anyway, today we celebrate many things. First and foremost, to our Canadian friends, well, a very happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you're having a great day and the turkey is doing the number on you. Right. Happy Thanksgiving to Canada. Also in the United States, the US Navy celebrates 250 years. 250 years. You see, 251 years ago, right, Paddy below in Cork said, lads, we don't need this technology, nor do we need all these ships. We're going to give them over to this fella called Mac. He lives across the pond there. He said he'll mind them. That's exactly what happened. Ireland, of course, inventing the Navy, right? And what else are we celebrating today? Oh, that's kind of it. There's 2 things, But anyway, yes, welcome in and welcome all. Tonight, a brand new series all about trying to master the art of short takeoff and landing. All the flying part. It's known as STOL, S-T-O-L, and it's here at Microsoft Flight Sim. The series, we hope, is going to teach us everything we need to know about our short takeoff and landing, from the basics of what it is and why it matters, to the skills, the techniques, the environments that make us such a unique part of aviation. We'll explore bus trips from all around the world. We're going to learn how to master the aircraft handling at the edge of performance, and then eventually step into the world of STOL competitions, where precision and technique decide the winner. In part one, we're going to lay the foundation, understanding all about what STOL really is and why it matters, right? And we're going to start off here at an airport. It's 42 Bravo. Now, when you load in here, it's called Goodspeed Airfield, right? And it's not... My lights are shagged. It's not what you would class as a bush field at all, or a STOL port, which are actually now defined as STOL ports. But it's an ideal airport runway airfield to start kind of practicing on some of the fundamentals. On the fundamentals that we know with flying. I mean, we've always learned our takeoff, our climb out, your cruise, your descent, approach and landing. And it's all done usually by numbers. From general aviation, we're going to be looking at our airspeed indicator, right? We'll know roughly, based on our weight, what the winds are doing at the airfield. We'll know roughly we hit a certain speed or you know, velocity, V, right? We're going to know, well, it's at this stage we should rotate, pull the aircraft up, and we should be able to go and fly. It's the same when it comes to our approach, knowing where our touchdown zone or our aiming point is going to be, and gently bring the aircraft down. What we're going to learn when it comes to STOL, yes, we cover some of those basics, but we do it in a very different way. And when it comes down to what you can learn and what you can be practicing on, this is not about trying to grease your landings. In actual fact, because we're using simulators, for the first while, don't worry at all about how hard you're going to hit that runway. We're trying to get precision first. Then you can make it a little bit softer. There are techniques you can do. There's ways in which you can manage your energy, and that'll, you know, properly flare the aircraft right before touchdown. That's going to kind of eliminate as much of that vertical velocity as possible. Try and flare, right? But it's all about precision. And you don't really read this in books in terms of the skills you'll learn about, but you have to kind of do it in the sim, and you start building muscle memory of knowing visually what's actually happening. You won't even have to look at your airspeed indicator. You're going to get that sense of knowing what the airplane is doing, its speed, its capability. Are you flying? Are you in this constant ground effect? Are you in a stall? We're going to be learning all of those stuff. And to help us along, friends, we're going to be joined by none other than oohcando. His entire channel, his entire community, it's built on bush flying. And Cando has done real-world flying with this as well. And he has an absolute wealth of knowledge in which he's going to share with us. You know, we just need to be, you know, be nice. Tell him he's a good-looking fella, you know. Maybe give him an old follow and a like, and do you know what I mean? But he's going to be joining us here in a while, and I'm looking forward to that. What Cando has done over the last, must be 5 years, has focused in its entirety on the whole bush flying experience that you can do in a flight sim. And yes, we're all used to landing in, you know, all these beautiful airports, and we jump onto VATSIM and we can do all of these things. STOL flying, I mean, the advantages of, you know, bush flying, and in which you need to know all about STOL, right? It's going to be getting you into places off the beaten track, away from, you know, where everything is beautiful, you know, asphalt runways and all this. And we need to know what to do. It's one thing to be able to, you know, land. Landing tends to be that little bit easier getting into a tight spot because, well, you can really drop your speed. Taking back off, that's where the challenge is. It could be high terrain, there could be sloped runways, it could be a bad run, there may not be a runway. So these are the things we all have to consider. Right? So what we're going to cover tonight, well, we've 2 modules. As I said, there's 8 modules altogether that I've worked on. But module 1, it's our introduction into what STOL is, what it is and what it isn't, how it evolved through history, and also some of the real world operations. Why is it such an important skill set in simulation and, of course, in the real world? And the aircraft that excel at STOL flying in the real world and what makes them all different. But we're also going to hone in on Cando's experience and his recommendation for his favourite STOL aircraft that are present in Microsoft Flight Sim from third-party developers or even some of the stock aircraft. Module 2, well, that's going to focus on the bush pilot environment. Where do we fly? What regions do we fly? How the terrain, the wind, slope of the runway, even the surface will all affect our performance when we're trying to do our takeoff and landing. We're also going to learn a little bit about density altitude, what it is, why hot and high equals, you know, poor performance. You could be, for instance, you know, in a Cessna 208 Grand Caravan loaded to the absolute, sitting on the ramp in Shannon, right? And that would actually outperform something like a Kit Fox, which is nearly empty at about 6,000 feet on a mountain strip. We're going to learn the differences. We're also going to learn how to safely scout and evaluate a landing strip before we commit to land. Now, in the real world, bush pilots, yes, they'll spend a lot of time looking at maps, they'll figure out what the areas are, and they're going to do some sort of reconnaissance prior to landing there. But a lot of the time they can do it from the air. If they're flying up a particular route, yes, they'll ask questions, they'll figure out where things are. But from the air, they're going to be figuring out, okay, how do I evaluate what's going to happen here? As I said, it's one thing to land, very different thing then to take off. Often in the real world, when you do land at one of these locations, you know, you break out the camping gear and you have your barbecue and a couple of pints. The next day tends to be the aircraft is going to be fully laden with all your stuff, probably refueled, and now you've got to get back out. So that's where the challenge is going to be. Right. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. So let's see how we get on with this, right? It's going to be grand. There is a bit of theory to go through, but the aim, as I say, lads, it's to provide us with enough information that we can go off and then start practicing. This is going to be quite different than any other sort of flying. If you've never done kind of the bush flying or, you know, STOL skilled flying, it's very different than what you might be used to. So it's a lot of fun. It's like we've done trips. I've joined Cando. I don't know where we were. I forget. There was a riverbed and the winds. We were using live weather. The winds were strong enough. You could take off within a matter of feet. I'm talking like 10 feet. We were airborne purely because of the wind direction and the speed. And then trying to hold the airplane. You swear it was like a helicopter. This sort of stuff and feeling the forces, even though you can't physically feel it, your eyes are going to give you enough input to say, this is what's happening. It's pretty cool what we can do. Do you know? But anyway, it was chilly. I'm not bashing my hand. It was chilly. It was chilly, right? Well, I'm very warm, but thanks. But anyway, let's see what happens. This should be fun, though. And we're going to run this over the next couple of weeks. I think probably 4 weeks, give or take. And I know then my hope would be we can get maybe a team or a group of pilots together. And we'll start looking at the STOL championships, which is huge. It's great fun, and there's prizes and everything up for offer, and you get bragging rights. So wouldn't that be cool? You can enter yourself in depending on the aircraft, the category, all the sort of jazz. So it's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, to get us started, we shall ramble in and say hello to the peoples who've joined us here on a Monday. You're very welcome in, lads. So who's here? Look, Fierce Wolf, happy Monday. CP65 is here. Not looking as fierce or wolfy as Fierce Wolf, but he's looking well. Vacuum, good to see you. North Coast Mike, welcome in. Super Ty, welcome aboard. Tarnish Mossman, happy Monday. Retriever Neil, welcome aboard, man. Medic 24 Life, hello, fellow aviators. Welcome in, buddy. Naughty Gnome is here. Have a great time tonight, Murph. I can't join as it's my wedding anniversary, but I'll be there next week and catch up with this lesson. Naughty Gnome, happiest regards to you and Mrs. Naughty Gnome for your wedding anniversary. Lads, congratulations in the chat. She hasn't murdered him yet. No worries at all, Naughty. Eamon 1973 is here. Welcome in. Heisenberg, happy Monday, buddy. Hope you're well. Crafty Tigers is here. APU Inspector, welcome aboard. Mrs. TPHI, ups to down, has entered the chat. A very good evening. Ninny Bobbins, welcome in. Who else come in here now? Malky, welcome in. Ozymandias, happy Monday. Creo, hello to County Mayo. Hope you're well, buddy. 98 Vulcan, welcome aboard. Filthy is here. Corn Wolf, happy Monday. Spitfire, RF 100 is in the chat. Appy, welcome in. Soaring AJ. AJH, man. We're playing the Dougal song. Max Stallion is here. Good to see you. Maverick Mike, hello. Flying Foss, welcome in. Liptorius, a very happy Monday to you. Shuffle Shoes, shuffles in. AJH John, hope you're well, buddy. Old Veteran 965, happy Monday to y'all. Hope you had a great weekend and a happy 250th birthday to US Navy. I nearly said Muse fan. I was going to do it. Scott, you're very welcome in. Hope you're well. Resonate, good to see you, buddy. I ate so much, I think I overdid the weight restrictions, says Crafty Tigers. Brilliant. Epic Fool is here. Learn how to stall, also known as more excuses for Murphy to crash. We're on the same frequency, Epic. I just say this all the time. Who be this? Photos by Kev is here. Evening, people folks. Good to see you, Kev. Hope you're well, buddy. Now, let me see. P. Swan is here. Don't be breaking any propellers, I'm telling you. Patrick Doyle, good to see you, buddy. And Apache is here. Who else come in the door? Sounds like a Murphy way of saying, see, here's a new kitchen. Yeah, well, kinda. Dougal McTavish, the chairman, has rambled aboard. Good to see you, Dougal. Hope you're well, buddy. Cheaping out in the kitchen, Murph. I wasn't. When you're wrapping the Skoda, shag off. Would you use a hairdryer? Why would you use a hairdryer? Jesus. Scott, like, do you know what I mean? You wouldn't want emotion. Why would you need a hairdryer? Oh, Jesus. That's terrible, isn't it? God almighty. Stick figure, good to see you. Stu Snape is here. Welcome in. Gonna wear the hat next week. Then we had the massive raid from Cando. Welcome in, Candonians. Hope you're all well, lads. Shark Tales is here. Super Ty says, our Canadian tire for us Canucks who are having Thanksgiving. I smell the turkey. Oh, Jesus. Citizen 42, welcome in. Got friends. Mike Road, welcome in, lads. Welcome in. Ox is here. Hope all is well. Toto is in the house. Welcome in. Got friends are in the chat. These are a bunch of guys who know a thing or two about STOL and bush flying. You're very welcome in, lads. Great to see you. Proby Pete, good day from Arizona. It's been raining for 3 days in the desert. Jesus. Totally 78, good to see you. Now, let me see. It's Halloween on Friday. Halloween is on a Friday, yes. We'll be ready for a true fright when the stuff gets there. Yes, not all kitchen supplier doors are the same. Listen, Indigenous Peoples Day also says wrong stuff. Brilliant. My wife's uncle got a B&Q kitchen. He had nothing but problems. That's what we like to hear. But anyway, we used to have a chain of home improvement stores here named Texas. Oh, do you remember those? Yeah, all shut down. Schutz is here for 10 months. Evening all. Thank you very much indeed for your 10 months, buddy. Hope you're well. Where's this now? I can only get... Jesus. This morning I tried to catch some fog. I missed. Ah, Jesus. Sunjammer, good to see you. Stall, not to confuse with stall. Yes, stall or stall. Indeed. Where's this now? Get him to drink beer. He'll drink a few beer. Now, let me see. Downrange, good to see you. Short field takeoff and landings, good stuff. That was my favourite during training. Nice. Yes, we shall have fun. It kind of goes beyond your kind of standard general aviation flying, because in a lot of these kind of short field stuff, when it comes to bush flying, I mean, we can get into the whole, tail dragger or nose dragger, like what's going to be a better aircraft. And yes, there is, truth in the rumour, understanding and knowing your aircraft well will give you a distinct advantage here, because, well, you're going to know the feel, you'll know its limits, right? But the idea here is it'll apply to any aircraft. Do you know what I mean? STOL planes pretending to be helicopters. I'm telling you now. Where's this now? Asphalt runway. Ding dong. B. Carlo, good to see you. I think our STOL CFI has been drinking. In a box man is here. 18 months, man. Thank you very, very much indeed. Good to see you. Zybok Doc is here calling from Denmark. Hello from Tipperary. Strap 21. Hola. Hope you're well, buddy. Where's this now? Plane crashes and manic takeoffs. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Where's this now? Buttons. Kill switch, welcome in. P. Swan, yes. Who else come in? Mutley, good evening. Now that looks like a STOL strip. Who, what? Murph, stop saying bush. Right. A clear spot in the back of the head. Great bunch of lads. Dr. Sisu is here. My dude. Great to see you, man. Hope you're well. Some great scenery in Chile. Oh, Chile's awesome. It's loads of fun. Where is this now? Maybe the final lesson will be to do a STOL takeoff in the A380. Yeah, sure. Heapster, good to see you. Where is this now? Mr. Minimite, happy Monday. Frankie Poops just landed in some fun wins in LaGuardia. Frankie, good to see you, buddy. Regards to you and the missus. Hope all is well. Right, we're over here now. No comments about feet pictures. Ian Fisher, good to see you. Frozen Gamer, welcome aboard. Energy management to the extreme. Absolutely. Let me see here now. Muse Fan is here. Good to see you, my dude. A very happy Monday. Right, who else come in? We're almost done. Who else come in there now? A quick and hello to Sergeant Sausages Aviation. You're very welcome in. Visualize is here. Dave Cleary, legend Dave. Welcome in, Dave. Happy Monday. Northland Air, a very good evening. Who's this now? Mohammed, welcome aboard. Or is it Mohammed? Mohammed, you're very welcome. Now, let me see. Is it Javier? Good evening. Flying Diggs. Howdy. Hope all is well, Diggs. JP is in the house. James Wilding. Good to see you, buddy. Now, let me see. Party Newcastle this weekend. Brilliant. Damo, good to see you, bud. Jesus, that you need to get on. You know, I'm just saying. Brilliant. Right. Or you can issue it out as a punishment. Yep, you need to go back now and watch your man and count how many times he says Jesus. These streams go on for about 4 hours. They'd love it, you know, they'd love it. But I hope you're well, buddy. Icarus is here, good to see us. Sumner, welcome in. Black Sheep Jean, I have now watched exactly, continuing this stream, one stream in a row. Good to see you, man. Visualize, welcome aboard. Where's this now? Sourdough Man, good to see you. Kubi Montana is in the house. Solomon is here. Angels 1-5. Happy Monday. Truck Prime rather. Are you looking at these off of Discord? Am I looking at these off of Discord? What do you mean, Tuck? Tuck Prime. I said Truck Prime. It's his cousin, twice removed. Tuck, welcome in. Your room looks like the bridge of the Starship Enterprise. Engage. It does. It's very fancy. It's warm though. Wesley is here. Good to see you, Wes. Where is this now? NM Flyer, welcome aboard. Northland Bush Flying, welcome in. Devil Kid, welcome aboard. Mr. TPHI is here. Lee Russell, good to see you. Lads, it's all kicking off now. A great bunch of lads. A great bunch of lads. And sure, let's see what happens here now, right? Kozaki Flyer checking in from Alabama. Welcome aboard, my dude. I had a few interesting landings in the Amazons last night. Definitely need to bring some bush flying in Brazil. Brazil is quite good for it as well, yeah, 100%. Right. Here's a button I'm going to press, and then I'll press another one. So, Jesus. We're here on the ground, as I said, at 42 Bravo. Right? 42 Bravo. And what we're looking at here, we are in the Zlin Aviation Norden. This is an aircraft default to Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it was created by the legends that are Got Friends. It's a beautiful little airplane, and I like flying the thing. I just like the way it's, you know, it's put together. So I'm going to be using that for today. And as I say, you know, the current location where we are now, we'll move on somewhere else, right? But don't worry, we're only using this as kind of like our introduction point, all right? So there is going to be a little bit of theory as we start off, right? We have to learn some stuff. And I have, like, you know, I have pictures. Brilliant. We can look at pictures. We'll have a look at some of those. Then we're going to get into some of the flying. And then Kando is going to join us, and we're going to get his perspective, not only on what I am doing, but also a much broader kind of overview of when it comes down to this sort of bush flying stuff that we're doing, right? So we have a whole load of notes. Look, Jesus, 3,000 words of it. But I'll start off at the beginning just to give us an overview of what we're going to be doing, all right? So module 1, as I said, what we're going to do tonight, well, what is STOL? Short takeoff and landing. Real world examples. We're going to look at some of the bush operations, humanitarian flights, flights that happen in Alaska, Papua New Guinea, the outback. Bush flying, very popular, of course, in the United States, but also other regions. They do a fair amount in Australia and in New Zealand as well. And anywhere, I suppose, that you just don't have a lot of airports or kind of, you know, a lot of open space. All right. What we're doing in simulation, you know, what can we do? How can we do it? And the sort of fun you can have with it, right? STOL competitions, there's a few of them. You know, Red Bull are involved there as well. You have the Valdez, and you also have the National STOL. That's in the real world. And, you know, in Flight Sim, we have eSTOL. And it'd be interesting to see kind of, you know, where that evolves to. Also, we'll look at some of the commonly used aircraft, things like, you know, the Piper Cub, the Husky, Beaver, the Wilga, Kit Fox, PC-6. You'd be surprised that some of the aircraft are actually designated as STOL, S-T-O-L aircraft. Some of them are friggin' huge, lads, right? So is there a recommended place for this? Place or plane? The Norden. Yes, the Norden. This is the Norden. It's beautiful. It's in Aviation Norden. What did I call it? Did I call it something else? Norden. Did I call it something else? I would go with this sort of stuff. The Norden is brilliant, or, you know, Kit Fox, that kind of stuff. And we can take it on from there, right? But anyway, module 2 then, the bush pilot environment. Where can we fly? Finding and installing bush sceneries. That's a basic thing, but maybe where do you find them, right? Understanding the terrain, wind and weather conditions, off-airport landings, rivers, sandbars, meadows, glaciers. You can pretty much land it anywhere, right? Module 3 is going to look at aircraft and configuration, choosing the right aircraft for the right job, weight and balance management, that's fuel, passengers, cargo, modifications to the aircraft. We'll look at the real world, but also what options we have here in the sim, right? And that comes anything down to your Thunder tires, you know, vortex generators, stall kits, you name it, right? Flap settings and the effect on performance. And it's not just your standard flaps. There's all sorts of stuff on these planes. We'll also have a look at some of the real world modifications that are used. Module 4 is going to be the core stall skill set, as in your slow flight, mastering aircraft right at the edge of stall. You'll be flying along and that stall bell or the horn, that's going to be whistling at you, but you're still maintaining steady flight. Short field takeoff, your brake release, maximum liftoff technique, short field takeoffs for your ground roll management and keeping the nose light. Obstacle clearance, clearing trees, cliffs, ridge lines, go-arounds, it can happen, right? And pilot focus and muscle memory when it comes to the competition, the 3 skills: short ground roll, control at low speed, and accuracy. Module 5 will cover our bush flying operations, reading terrain and also scouting strips, low passes, observation, wind awareness and landing direction choices, right? Sometimes in bush flying operations, or when folks fly out in the bush, they might have to take off with a tailwind. Only because, you know, it's probably the safest way to fly. So we have to consider that, right? Sometimes, you know, you can't take off into the wind because there could be an obstacle in the way or a mountain in the way, you know? Other things we look at is our risk factors in relation to our competitions. So if there's crosswinds, surface conditions, and how do we mitigate the dangers, not only from the aircraft in terms of weight, balance, setting up your controls so you actually have proper feeling of it, and then the use of rudder pedals, try not to tip the nose over, all this kind of stuff, all right? Module 6 is stall in the online world. Can stall be done on VATSIM? There's one for you. Practicing short fields with ATC oversight, when to fly offline, and when we do some of our own bush trips, which we tend to do as group flights. They're always a lot of fun. Then we're going to look at eSTOL, the actual eSTOL, Module 7. It's the national stall, right? But it's the computer version or the simulated version. We're going to look at the scoring. How does scoring work? The shortest combined takeoff and also landing. Categories of aircraft used. Microsoft Flight Sim sceneries that they use, and how competitions are measured. And in the last bit then we'll look at taking part in a stall series or a stall event, and that's kind of where we go. So a lot of the information that I have tonight, I'll share it all with us over on Discord. As I said, there is a little bit to cover, but we'll get through it kind of bit by bit and then see how we go, right? And as I said, we're going to have Cando jumping on relatively soon here now as well. I think that'll work, Cando. Yeah. So, any questions so far? Grand. So, what is STOL? Short takeoff and landing, operating safely from very short or rough surfaces by flying slow, generating high lift and managing energy precisely so you can lift off in minimal distance and stop in minimal distance. The essence, well, that's your energy management. We land at the lowest, safest airspeed, thus lowest kinetic energy. We touch down exactly where planned, and we use aerodynamic braking. Does anyone know what aerodynamic braking, what we mean by that? And also using the wheel brakes efficiently and safely. On takeoff, we convert engine power into lift as nearly or as early as safely possible without mushing or stalling, right? So, yeah. Ready when you are. Sweet. Yeah, so that, you know, it's aerodynamic braking. Think of that there, right? Using the air around you to brake. But how might you do it, right? So aerodynamic braking. I want you to, let's kind of, you know, fourth dimension stuff here. Let's say, for example, you're traveling in a motor car, in a car, and you're either driving or you're a passenger. It doesn't matter, right? You're driving, and let's say you're doing, 40 miles an hour, okay? If you put your arm out the window, put your hand out the window like this. Keep your hand perfectly straight, right? You're literally driving like this. Your arm is out there, but I want your hand to be exactly like that. And what happens is, well, the airflow is going over and under, yeah? Okay, well, what would happen with the air now rushing this way? What would happen if you were just to do something like this? What would happen? Your arm would get shoved back, wouldn't it? Completely. Why? Because now the air is hitting a larger surface. So in theory, what's that actually doing to your arm? Try it the next time you're in a car. Just don't lose your friggin' arm, right? But like, put your arm out the window as you're driving along. Keep your hand dead straight, so you'll feel the wind. You'll know your job is to keep that dead center. But then just start lifting your hand, lift your fingers, peel them back a little bit. You'll see what happens. That's the very same as aerodynamic braking. You're going to put more surface of the wing, more drag into that air, and it is then going to slow down the velocity of that moving object. That's what it is, right? So you can't do much of those small hands. But you get the idea, right? That's aerodynamic braking. So if you were to say, right, well, look, if that was me wing and I suddenly did this, right? Now, what does this also mean if that's your wing? There's a name for that. We're talking about you're changing the angle. What's another name for that you might have heard before in aviation? You know, you tend to hear it a lot when it comes to like combat or military aviation, right? But when you change your angle of attack, your AOA, angle of attack. Now, angle of attack doesn't mean, yeah, we're going to burst your man down there and, you know, stitch him a loaf. Angle of attack is the angle in which your wing is attacking the airflow coming in. Right? Angle of attack is important because there's a limit. There's a maximum and a minimum limit to which how much angle of attack, depending on the design of the wing and also the environment and your speed and so on. But there's a huge kind of line in the sand. If you pass that, regardless of airspeed, you could stall a wing. And you stall the wing, that stops your lift. Right? So even though you could be moving fairly fast, if you exceed your angle of attack, right? We're not even worried about, you know, breaking the plane or bending materials. We're just talking about if you go over beyond that line of your angle of attack, regardless of your speed, that wing will stall. So these are things we need to consider. An angle of attack is very important because this sort of aerodynamic braking that we're talking about, right? Think of it, your arm is out the car, you're driving along, put your hand up, it slows. That is one of the core parts of when we do a flare, right before touchdown, especially when it comes to STOL airfields and STOL aircraft. If we can increase the angle of attack, reduce our velocity, that's how we're going to do it. All right. Now, there's other things we can do as well. We can do things like, you know, another way, if we can't use aerodynamic braking by just pulling back on the angle of attack, how else might you make the surface of your wing bigger so that the wind is hitting it or the airflow is hitting more of your aircraft or looking for more drag? What might we be able to do to our aircraft that's going to extend the size of that wing? Flaps. Correct and right. Party Newcastle. You'd use your flaps. Your flaps, slats, leading edge, trailing edge, doesn't matter. We can get into all that, but it's the same sort of technique. And what you'll see, if you look at some videos, what you'll see some STOL pilots do or bush flyers do right before they land, and I mean like, you know, 20 feet before they land, you'll see them engage the flaps. They'll actually lower the flaps. And the reason why they're doing that, it's going to allow the aircraft nose to lift that little bit before touchdown. Scott from A2A gave us a great example of this with the Comanche. As he put it, he loved it. Like, Comanche is a great plane, to what Scott would say, to plant it. The idea being is you're coming right in just before touchdown. As you flare, drop the flaps, as in go full flaps, and you plant the aircraft down. Now, this is where the skill element has to come in, because it's all about timing. So far as when you want to, you know, plant it, you got to be careful. In the real world, there's consequence, because you could bounce. Worst case, you'll bounce and break something, right? Which we don't want to do. But certainly as we're starting off, don't worry about the finesse of, you know, how gentle you hit the ground. This is all about precision first. Get the aiming down to a fine art, and then we can start focusing on, right, how do we make that a little bit lighter and a little bit more finesse. Do you know what I mean? High lift devices, yeah. So we can look at high lift devices as well. So looking at the wing of the aircraft, we just need to understand some of the details that we can use to our advantage when we try to do it, right? Another way, and this is a little bit more advanced, but it's just to get you thinking. Outside of, you know, the angle of attack and using flaps, what might be another technique to lift the nose of your aircraft right before touchdown? I want you to think on this. Let's say, for example, you're flying level in your general, or any plane, but usually general aviation airplane. Let's say you're flying straight and level. What happens to the nose when you apply power? When you apply thrust, what happens to the nose? Similarly, what happens when you reduce the power? What happens to that nose? What does the nose in the aircraft, what direction does it go? Does it go up? Does it go down? Right? So if you apply power, especially with, bush aircraft, they're well beyond your standard general aviation aircraft, they tend to be high performance, very high performance. So when you apply power, the nose in a lot of cases will lift. If the nose is lifting, you're now using mechanical aid, the nose will lift, that'll keep the nose up.
Hello there.
Yeah, if the nose drops, it drops down again. Power for attitude, pitch for airspeed. Yeah. Power for altitude, pitch for airspeed. Correct. But it's the same thing. If you apply power right before touchdown, give it a shot with the beans, the nose will come up a little bit. Then you can cut the power. You're only using it in a very small segment just to get the nose of the airplane up. All right. So we'll have a look at that as well. Now, things we need to know is STOL is not slamming into the ground and jumping on the brakes, hoping everything's going to be all right. It's not full flaps and, slip it in sideways and let's see what happens. The whole idea, true STOL, it's repeatable, it's controlled, and you're very margin aware. That's what we're trying to train. You can probably, I've done it, manky landings, barely any sort of velocity going down, and we managed to put the aircraft stopping it really, really short. But this is something that we just need to be able to do consistently, right? Consistently. Cando, thank you very much. Muse, you legend, gifting a tier 1 to Cando. Thank you very, very much indeed. So some of the things we're going to learn about, right? The key terms, V speeds. And you've often heard of V speeds before, V1, V2, VR, all this sort of stuff. So we have VSO and VSI. We have stall speeds for dirty and clean, and stall work happens just above these speeds, VSO and VSI. All right. VREFs, target approach speed, often a buffer above stall, and it's type specific to the aircraft. So your VREF. Your wing loading, weight divided by the wing area. The lower the wing helps. The lower the wing loading helps with slow speed. Power loading, which is weight divided by horsepower. Lower numbers equal stronger takeoff. So the more powerful the engine is, makes sense. More powerful the engine is, right? And then the overall weight of the aircraft. So horsepower and weight. Ground effect, reduce induced drag close to the surface, can help with lift-off floats. So ground effect is a thing. It is modelled in the sim. And that's where, with the momentum of an aircraft moving forward, there's such ground effect as in pressure underneath the airplane. It floats. It can't actually get down there until the speed has dropped enough for the wings to fully stall. When you're in ground effect, the wings are still doing their job. They're generating lift, or they could be maintaining lift. These are things we need to look at. And then density altitude. So we could learn all of these skills and, how do we pitch the aircraft up, be it in our flare or just before our final approach or touchdown. But then density altitude will come knocking on your door, and density altitude will want to throw your planning out the window because it changes from region to region and it changes with the weather. Density altitude is huge, right? It's huge. Now, I'm going to give you a link here to a very, very useful, handy website. It's from the Pilots Institute, lads, right? And I'm going to share this with you, and we'll have a quick look at it here. Enzi, good to see you, buddy. Where is this now? So this is all to do with your V speeds. Sometimes you may have looked at, aircraft POHs, or you've heard people talking about V speeds, wondering, what? So let's have a quick look down through it. V-speeds provide safe aircraft operation. VX and VY optimize your climb performance. VNE and VA prevent structural damage. VSO, VS1, VR, V1 and V2, they guide your key flight phases. Now, you're not necessarily going to be dealing with V1, rotate, V2. You're not going to deal with that necessarily when it comes to your bush flying, depending on the aircraft. But we need to know and understand what these are. right? VSO. VSO is your stall. That's when the machine is going to stall, right? So anything below your VSO. And if you ever look at this on your airspeed indicator, just to explain, right? So a standard airspeed indicator, it's in knots, right? And we can see that it starts at 0 and it goes all the way up. We have this white line on the inside, but it only goes from about, 52 knots up to about 86 knots, right? Does anyone know what that white bar represents? And see the way we have the green. But the green is showing us anywhere along VS1, right? That's known as, it's pretty much safe speed, right? So we know we should be able to have sufficient lift and speed, or sufficient lift at about 60 knots. That's according to the aircraft. However, the little bar in here, well, that's showing us now the use of flaps. Safe maximum flaps. So you'll often hear people say, I'm doing 140 knots and I'm dropping the flaps. Well, you could drop one notch of flaps, but the aircraft will tell you when, right? But this is the maximum speed in which you can apply full flap via VFE. And this is the speed with full flaps you can expect to stall. That's what they mean. So that white bar, it's on every airspeed indicator that looks like that. And you'll see it as well. If you're on like a G1000, they put the white tape to one side of your speed. Yeah, right. The green then, usually that's your safe flying arc. The yellow arc, okay, your yellow arc, it's kind of like your traffic light system. What does an orange or an amber light mean? And this trips people up altogether, right? So I think the correct phraseology for an amber light or an orange light, it's don't go unless unsafe to do so. Huh? It's very interesting, but it means don't go. Doesn't mean stop. It means don't go. The red line, the red line, right? We do not exceed that line. And why would we not want to exceed that line? We're not going to go all, whatchamacallit, we're not going to go back to the future and head back into the 80s. That's the design limit of the aircraft. Structurally, it can withstand speeds to a maximum. It's rated to a maximum of that speed. All right. So your caution in here, what you can do, aircraft, sometimes it's quite okay to enter the yellow arc with airspeed, depending on how big the yellow arc is. And what I'm saying here is, let's say, for example, we're flying, in a very calm day and we're doing, say, 150 knots. Suddenly, the wind picks up and it blows against us at additional 60 knots. Well, that's going to push us right up here, technically, because our airspeed, the speed in which we're moving through air, or the air flowing over and under the wings, has now increased. So therefore, the yellow arc, yes, you can use it, but usually in very calm weather settings, calm wind, all that sort of jazz. Otherwise, just stay clear of it. Stay clear of it. In the real world, it's more important than the sim. Right, you're not really going to cause damage in here. The worry is, of course, if you get a gust and you're in the yellow arc, well, the gust can throw you over VNE. All right. So V speeds are specific airspeeds that are defined for operational reasons, such as limitations, as in your maximum flap extended speed (VFE), or performance requirements, the best rate of climb speed. In other words, V speeds serve as critical benchmarks that guide pilots in managing the aircraft's performance and ensuring safety. For example, the rotation speed, VR, is the speed at which the pilot initiates a gentle rotation of the aircraft to lift off the ground during takeoff. A V speed may change depending on factors such as the aircraft weight, the weather conditions, but its designation, example VR, remains the same. So the speed might change, but it's still going to be classed as VR. All right? You may find several V speeds on the internet that aren't listed here, because V speeds we're talking about today are defined in, it's all to do with kind of FAA stuff. All right. Any other V speeds you encounter are likely manufacturer specific, and they aren't regarded as the official V speeds by the FAA. Now, Mach numbers and V speeds, that kind of goes off in another direction, but those of you who like flying the airliners, right? This is where you have, for instance, a VMO 340 knots, and an MMO of Mach decimal 82. VMO is used at lower altitudes in knots, VMO, right? And MMO applies at higher altitudes, speed relative to the speed of sound. So again, they would be on your aircraft POH, to be on your performance charts, but it's just to explain what these are. And then there's a list here of all the different V speeds and what they actually mean. So if you're unsure about it, that's what they mean, right? Final takeoff speed. Final takeoff speed. I've never seen that. Maximum landing gear operated speed, liftoff speed. You get the idea, all right? You get the idea. V2, takeoff safety speed. So V1, takeoff decision, rotate, VR, and then V2, takeoff safety speed. You've hit your minimum speeds to continue on with your climb. All right? Most important V speeds, we have rotation, best angle of climb, best rate of climb, maneuvering speed, VA, maneuvering speed, maximum flaps extended speed, maximum landing gear extended speed, never exceed, maximum structural cruising speed, VNO, stall speed, takeoff decision, takeoff safety, VEF, critical engine failure speed during takeoff, and then minimum control speed, VMC. Are we happy enough with that? It goes on and on and on. I just wanted to explain that's where we get these numbers, right? That's where they get these references from. If you've never seen or heard of them before and you always wanted to know, what's all this V speed talking about? There you go. And that's from the Pilot Institute. So the link is in the chat. Gibbo, good to see you. My speed vertically isn't great. I'm much faster horizontally. The man can crawl. So you get the idea. Here it's showing us again on the airspeed indicator. So we can see flap operation range, the white bar, maximum flaps extended speed, normal operating range, maximum cruise speed down the bottom, the caution speed, and never exceed. All right. And then stall speed for landing gear and flaps deployed right down there. All right. Are we happy enough with this, lads? We don't need to go on and on and on about it. I thought it was useful information just so you knew what the crack was. All right. Right. We're getting there. Now, we'll have Cando on now in just a moment. We're nearly finished. So now, STOL, the early records of STOL aircraft. And this is mad, lads, right? Can you name me a couple of STOL categorized aircraft in the chat? A couple of different aircraft that you think are STOL capable. Because you often hear that, you know, even the 146 had STOL capabilities, right? So we have a now list of STOL aircraft. And this isn't it's not an exhaustive list. It's just some of them. But some of the aircraft you'll see in this, you'll say to yourself, well, Jesus, really? That's interesting, right? So some of the bigger aircraft, yes, the Britten-Norman, right? Or the Britten-Norman, the Defender, right? The CASA, the C212, and also the 235s. Of course, de Havilland aircraft are in there. The Beaver, right? The Otters, the Twin Otters, they're all there. The Dornier, right? The Dornier 228, which Coronado did one of these, a twin prop, beautiful airplane. I reckon we're going to see one of those in the sim soon. The Javelin V6, no. The turbojet, the L410 turbojet, very similar to that, the Mitsubishi one, yeah. RJ700, Carbon Cub, yeah. Islander, yeah. I can stall any aircraft. Okay, I'll stop. DH5 Buffalo, yeah. Kit Fox, of course. The Maul, the 170, 180, yeah. Very good examples, lads. Very good examples. Did you ever hear the Murphy Radical? It's a Canadian-built aircraft by Daryl Murphy. I hear it's a great plane. But anyway, the list goes on. And then, of course, you have aircraft such as the Wilga, phenomenal airplane. The Kodiak, to some extent, the Grand Caravan, the short Skyvan. There's lots and lots and lots of them. But even the Westland Lysander, they were built to get in and out of short runways or unprepared runways, right? So the early routes, I mean, they pretty much started off in the 1930s. Light, slow aircraft, usually Cubs, specialized types like the Storch, if you've ever heard of that, German built, Feisler Storch, I think. Then into the 1950s, workhorses such as de Havilland came on board, the Beaver and also the Otter and so on. The modern era, of course, you have these kit aircraft, experimental aircraft, the Carbon Cubs, the Husky, the Wilga, Draco, the Norden, all this kind of stuff. All right. So it's when you get into the competition scene of aircraft, that's where they kind of take the the foundation STOL aircraft, and they're built specifically for competitions, right? So STOL started as a practical remote access requirement, or how do we build aircraft that can get in and out of these smaller areas, and it had evolved then into precision, or into a decisioned discipline. All right, the skills are the same though, regardless of what aircraft you're flying. The skill set, it remains the same. All right. So there's a list of a couple of aircraft. As I said, the Storch is in there. The Birdman Chinook, right? We saw one of them released not too long ago on Microsoft Flight Sim. The Cub, the Piper Cub, the Kit Fox, and so on. All right. So where or why would you be using STOL in your day-to-day flying? Right. Let's think on a couple of reasons. Why might you need to have STOL capable aircraft? And what sort of missions or operations would require you to have STOL capable aircraft, right? Anything that's defined as short takeoff and landing, right? That's pretty much it. So any ideas there? Like you think about what sort of pilot operations would have a huge demand on STOL. Short takeoff and landing. And then when you realize what it is, then you look at the aircraft that these guys actually use, it starts making a lot of sense. Starts making a lot of it. Medical, great one. Medical emergencies. Now, I know we have choppers, right? Helis, they're the mother of all STOL, right? Because they can just hover. But sometimes helis aren't applicable, depending on where, of course, you have to get to, right? So, yeah, medical is a great example. Tourism, yeah. Deliveries, logistics, yeah. All the cargo places, yeah. Missions in Papua New Guinea, yeah. High altitudes, sure. For fun, absolutely. Backcountry, absolutely. So you get the idea, right? We understand, yeah, this is why these aircraft, I mean, they didn't just build them for the crack because they said, hey, let's all land in Gibbo's back garden, for instance, right? The whole idea was, well, there was a need for them, all right? So understanding where STOL aircraft would operate in the world, it starts to paint a bit of a picture for you. Do you know what I mean? So they were all brilliant. Leo Chavez, thank you very much indeed. They're all great examples that you're giving me, lads. Aegis Spotter, yeah, that'll do as well. Search and rescue, that's another one. Agricultural, brilliant. Agricultural, absolutely. Supply drops, mountain rescue. And of course, you can see then, notwithstanding all the ones that you gave, but also military capability is important. Getting troops in and out, often at locations around the world that are not, prepared for aircraft. And that's why you see aircraft such as, the C-130, the C-7s, the C-5s, the A-400. These aircraft are highly powerful aircraft, savage power. The idea being is they can get in and get out in a relatively short distance. And that's the idea behind them, right? Environmental realities. Wind, right? So where might we have to consider this? Wind, a headwind, right? Think of this now for getting in and out of an airfield. The environmental things we need to know about, right? So wind has a huge impact on what you're flying and how that's going to impact on your landing. The direction of the wind and also the strength of the wind. As pilots, simulated or real, what's our job always trying to do? What do we always want to try and do when it comes to the wind, when we're taking off or landing? What do we want to be doing? Where do we want that wind? We want the wind behind us, beside us, or in front of us. We want to be into the wind. Take off and land into the wind. Yeah? That's what we always try to do. Otherwise, you get into, tailwind and all this sort of stuff and crosswind, which you're able to do. But ideally, you want the wind running against the aircraft. The reason for that, that'll shorten your takeoff and your landing because, the wind, its velocity over the wing and under the wing, meaning that your ground velocity doesn't necessarily have to be at its highest if you have a strong headwind. And this is where you try to take off. If I turn the winds on here like to 40 knots, I could take off without any of these wheels moving. I can just vertically take off because you're using the environment, you're using the wind, all right? What about the slope of the runway? So if we're taking off, an advantage would be what? Do we want to take off going up a slope, or do we want to take off going down a slope? These are very basic things, but it's just to kind of get them into your head, yeah? So if you're taking off, you want to go downhill. And if you're landing, well, you want to be landing uphill. The reason being is it'll shorten the roll, right? You're letting physics take over. Also the surface. So for example, we could say, right, if we want to land on a runway that's wet or icy, or we want to land on, gravel or grass or ice, knowing the surface is going to have a huge impact on figuring out where you should be able to either take off or land from. And the surfaces are important. And with Flight Sim 24, they've dialed in the numbers better when it comes to some of the surfaces. They're still not 100% right, but they're better, right? Especially if you're on the likes of grass. You know what I mean? Murphy, you're getting into the weeds, but it makes a huge difference. We'll look at different kind of takeoff roll. We'll do one here on the runway. We'll do one on the grass. You'll see the differences. All right. So that's the surface. Then we'll talk about density, altitude, and temperature, because this is the he's in the bushes waiting to spring out and surprise you. Density, altitude. Basically, if the temperature is hot and you're high up, that's going to give you less thrust and less lift, which means it's going to take you longer to take off. And you'll have to be technically traveling faster without stalling. So density, altitude, it's huge. It affects all sorts of general aviation flying, but particularly bush flying. And then we get into mountain flying and all this. Then we need to look at our weight and also the center of gravity. There are things that we can do within the sim. For example, we can open up our little EFB. On any aircraft, you can open up the CFB, and we can change the center of gravity. And this is important. Real pilots do this. They'll change where the weight of the aircraft is. They'll offset, or they'll put more weight in a certain area. For example, if you have always that challenge of every time you land in a tail dragger and you hit the brakes, you immediately upend it. But put the weight towards the back of the plane. See what happens next. This is what you can start experimenting with. All right, so try that. You're shifting the center of gravity, the weight of the airplane. Now, if you put all the weight on the very, very front, that's what the engine is, it's going to drop down, right? You put some of the weight to the back, but not too much so that as soon as you have enough airspeed, well, the plane just shoots up. It's all about balancing this. Now, the aircraft POH, they'll tell you exactly what the limits are. And sometimes you'll see it on this. It'll say out of limit, right? But you get the idea. Your center of gravity, when it comes to the weight distribution in your aircraft, that's vital for what we're going to be doing. It's vital, right? Because that could be the difference of, making it or not. So let me see here now. You're flying generally. Pitch power coordination, precise speed control, coordinated rudder at low speeds, short field discipline, and go around judgment. That's what all of this is going to help with, right? It's also, we're going to see the effect of the wind. We're going to see the effect of the wind and also the density altitude. We'll get a good idea of that. And, the distances, your aim point accuracy, that's always loads of fun because we can get into challenges. So where we're at the moment, 42 Bravo, I chose this little place for a reason. First and foremost, it's one of these beautiful default airports in the sim. This is all default, would you believe? And it looks like it's custom made. What I like about here is the runway. It's challenging enough because it's close to the water. But what I like is there are trees, but they're not blocking the runway. And the idea being is we're in this little area around the lake. Our plan is we're going to be taking off and landing on runway 14, and it's going to be a right-hand pattern. And then just for the sheer crack of it, well, there's an obstacle, i.e. a bridge, before we get to final. So there are things to consider on the ground, but it's just one of these little training locations so we can start honing in on the basics without having the imminent danger of actually crashing. We'll move on to that a little bit later because of another airport we're going to use. But 42 Bravo, it's a default scenery in the sim in Flight Sim 2024, and this is going to be where we're do our first practice. And if you notice on the runway, we have the center line. It's a broken center line, and we can count There's 9 of them, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 10 of them. There are 10 lines. So what we're going to start to do, because we want to start learning bush flying, our aiming point to start us off, our aiming point is going to be the third line. And that gives us loads of scope. If some people they'll probably be able to do the first line. They'll probably be able to stop it within the first line, right? But we're not worried about that just yet. Starting us off, we're going to be aiming for that third line. That is going to be your aiming zone. You want that to be your touchdown point. That third, anywhere on it, it's whatever, 15, 20 feet long. The third line is what you want to be aiming for your landing, right? Then we can step it up a gear because that will now become your takeoff limit. You want to be airborne before you get to that. And then we can tighten it up. We can go back to 2 and then we can go back to 1. And all of that is achievable. It's all achievable. It's all achievable. All right. Any questions so far? No? No. Good. Right. Grand. We're nearly there now. Now, let me see. What makes STOL aircraft good at STOL? So, yes, we can get into the wings here. And just to... I'll give you another link here on density altitude. There's no point me just reading off the website and then, this is from the FAA. It covers density altitude. We're going to be covering a little bit more of this later on, but there's some information. It's all from the FAA. They explain what density altitude is and why does it matter, right? I remember Fabio years ago showed a great video from like the 80s or the 70s, all about density altitude. That stuck with me. But it's just interesting, and you'll see when we start changing the weather in the sim, it's amazing. You'll think, geez, no problem, sure, I take off out of this airfield all the time. You throw density altitude at that, no, it's almost impossible to get airborne depending on what this density altitude is, because your aircraft is rated to be able to deal with certain environmental pressure, altitude, density altitude. All right, so that's that one there. But the other one I wanted to show you, put that back up there now, Murph. Yep, you devil, you. This one here. Some of the design characteristics of aircraft, right? So yeah, we talk about power, but it's the wing. And this is where we're talking about, the angle of attack with a wing, knowing what the airflow does above and beneath the wing, right? And then we're looking at the, the stalled airflow. And every wing, they're all similar, but they're different, right? But it gives you an idea with airfoil and with slats and flaps, airfoil with flaps, and then a plain airfoil. So you can see the shape of the wing and how it impacts on what it's doing with the air. And you can see the lift coefficient and also the angle of attack. So you can see an aircraft fitted with slats and flaps, right, has a massive capability of angle of attack, and where that line drops off, that's the stall. So you can kind of see where it's at. So you have on aircraft on the wing leading edge slats. Leading edge slats prevent the stall up to approximately 30 degrees of your angle of attack by picking up a lot of the air from below, where the slot is large in figure 3, accelerating the air in the funnel shaped slot, the Venturi effect, and blowing this fast air tangentially onto the upper wing surface through the much smaller slot. It pulls the air around the leading edge, thus preventing the stall up to a much higher angle of incidence and lift coefficient. All right. So that's where you have leading edge slats, and we'll go back to them in a moment, right? Where you have, where's this now? Your wingtips, you can get into that. Where you have conventional flaps, where is this now? Deedly dee. Wait, come back here.
Hello
now.
there.
Where you have your conventional flaps, right? Basically what they're doing is they're extending the surface of the wing, right? When you look at the air that flows under it, you're extending, how much air is getting pushed downward at the trailing edge of the wing. Yeah. That's where your flaps come into it, or then just a plain airfoil. But you get the idea of leading edge slats. A lot of STOL aircraft have both leading edge and trailing edge capability. All right. Wingtips, again, if it's a rounded or a square wingtip, or indeed they could have raised, as in fins coming up, or sharklets, as you call them. All right. So yeah, interesting stuff there. Flaps, ailerons, flapperons, different design of the flaps, right? We can get into that a little bit later on, but also other things or other other control surfaces. Your ailerons are there, of course, but also your elevator and also your rudder. Some aircraft, only part of that horizontal stabilizer moves, right? Only part of it. A lot of good stall capable aircraft, the whole thing moves. The entirety of that tail moves, right? And it depends. It depends on the aircraft type. But again, it's figuring out what's going to be your favorite aircraft. There's no right or wrong aircraft here. You know what I mean? There is no right or wrong aircraft. It's whatever one you're most happy flying. All right. So that's all from Zenith. That's actually from their own website. And again, I'll pop that into the chat there if you want to go and have a little look at that for more reading. All right. So where are we at now? Are we all okay so far? Now, let me see. High lift devices. So that's your flapper-ons, leading edge. So they're all to do with your high lift devices. Large wing area, low wing loading, right? Lower stall speed, better control near stall. The bigger the wing, usually the better, right? Big diameter climb prop. So your propeller is important, and also the power of the aircraft, the power of your engine, most important. Prop, not so much. There's very little we can do in the sim, depending on the aircraft. Very little we can do in the sim. But on a lot of time, what you'll see stall pilots do, if they're big into their STOL stuff, they'll actually have the prop off the plane standing near it, so they know exactly what their ground clearance is going to be. Like they've such an intimate knowledge of this. If we look at the Gottfried's aircraft, the Norden, this thing has 5 blades on this prop. And we do know the engine here is very strong. You look at something like the Wilget, which is absolutely pure nuts. Same idea. Loads of power. Wings super high. All sorts of high lift devices all over that plane. That is a competition built aircraft. All right. So big tail surfaces. So if we look at the tail of this aircraft, right, we know that we can move. Stop pressing buttons, Murph. We know that we could move pretty much all of the rudder on this airplane. It's huge. We have a massive displacement area. See how that moves? That's huge. That means we have great control over what the wind is doing, right? And the same can be said then for the elevator. Now, other aircraft, nearly all of the elevator will move. In this case, well, we only have a section of it, but it's still quite big. Based, you compare that to the rest of the size of the airplane, it's friggin' huge. These wing surfaces, or the control surfaces as they're called, they're quite large. So everything that we do here, that's going to impact on the air moving up and around, over and under on the wings, right? And these control surfaces, that's what we need to worry about, because we need to know the limits, all right? Especially at low speed. Landing gear and tires, again, looking at this machine, you can see it's a fixed landing gear, right? It's a tail dragger configuration. If you're in the noob's chair, don't worry about it. A tail dragger means that your main landing gear is toward the front, and you have a landing gear on the tail of your aircraft. So by default, they're sitting at quite a high angle of attack, right? When you start moving and you apply thrust, the aircraft velocity will pick up. The tail wheel will lift first, and because it has its own little wing at the back here, it'll lift, and the wings here then start to straighten, and then you take off. That's called a tail dragger. Tricycle landing gear, or in the bush world they call it a nose dragger, right? Well, they tend to have the main gear under the wing, and then they'll have another front gear, like a Cessna 172 or a Cessna 150. Nose dragger, right? Different types of aircraft. I'm not going to say which one is better for bush flying, what's worse. It's whatever you're happy to fly. And then we figure out then the skills that can apply to that aircraft. There's massive advantages using a tail dragger, but there's also massive disadvantages. The same could be said for a nose dragger. Can anyone give me even just one advantage and one disadvantage to a tail dragger? Just one. What might an advantage be using a tail dragger for stall flying? Right? Where is this now? It looks cool, but it's hard to taxi. Okay, rough terrain. It can handle rough terrain better. Disadvantage, higher chance of prop damage. Tail dragger keeps prop higher up. Yeah. Ground loops, tail loops. Yeah. Stoppies. Yeah. So a tail dragger, right? Think about it here. An advantage, a straight advantage of using a tail dragger aircraft. If you look at it in its most basic form, you can see that there's an angle of attack on the aircraft, meaning that if we try to do what's called a 3-point landing, all 3 wheels hit the ground, you're using aerodynamic braking by default. You have to, because the aircraft is that way. A lot of time you can land on 2 wheels and then reduce the power. She'll drop onto the back, and that's grand to do that. But an advantage of the aircraft is, in its default form, it's already high up the scale with angle of attack. A negative to this is your vision is completely obstructed. It's very hard to see out the front of this now, because while your line of sight is now looking upwards, and you cannot, like, if we were to talk about a blind spot, right? The pilot, he can see nothing here. If we can't see him, he can't see us. And if you think about it, what's that, 20 feet? 25 feet. He's blind to it. He can't see what's in front of him up to maybe 25 feet away. That's nuts. That's a massive blind spot. So to counter that, a skill that these guys need to do is probably land on the 2 wheels first to know that they're straight and level, and then kill the power and drop it onto the back wheel. All right? So you get the idea. More like 25 meters. Yeah, it's a huge distance, huge difference. All right? So, weight reductions, lighter interiors. You know, it's a relatively clean aircraft, this one, in terms of, like, you know, external fuel tanks and multiple seats and all the sort of jazz. But they'll all improve, making the aircraft lighter. You know, chairs out, people out. Naturally, it's going to reduce your weight. You know what I mean? Sean Dale, thank you very much indeed. 12 months, man. Cheers. So our technique concepts, it's kind of a high level. We're going to go through this with Cando, right? Power for path, pitch to hold, target airspeed, all that sort of stuff. Your aim point discipline, minimum float and touchdown, aerodynamic braking, short field considerations, and crosswind control. All of that jazz will come in with Cando, all right? And let me see then. Measuring stall performance, that'll be later on. And then that's grand. Okay. Any questions so far? Yay? Nay? Any questions, let me know. What we're going to do, lads, we're going to jump over now, and we're going to get Cando set up. Because what we're going to do, I'm going to fly a pattern. I'm going to fly a circuit here. All right. And the idea is, where is this now? Module. Here we go. What we want to do here is, I want to fly a pattern, and with some of the information we know about the aircraft, we want to see, can this now be used and deployed? But not only that, I'll apply what I know in terms of general aviation, right? But what I want Cando then to be able to swoop in to say, right, Murph, try it this way, or try it with that. Use flaps here, or don't use flaps there. It's just to give us an idea, and then we're all going to practice it, right? So hang on, we'll press buttons, look. This is going to be hilarious. Cando, I hope you're around, because if you're not, this is going to be, you know, funny. Wait now, how do we do this? So Chrome. That's going to be for that. Yes. And then this is going to be for that. This page is unexpected. Double check your links. Cando, are you doing your thing with your yoke? And we shall see. Where is this now? Hyper stall. Could you imagine? Pedro, good to see you, buddy. Let me see. Where's Cando? Someone hit me a dig. Cando! We'll call him. Ah, sure, there he is now. Hang on, he's dialing in. Ah, good to see you, buddy. Can you even hear me?
I can hear you.
How's it going?
Indeed, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Beautiful.
Right. Now,
all right.
Your screen. Are you giving me a screen as well, yeah?
I was giving you a screen, and I had some things to show you, but it's not really working. I'm not really sure how that's working right now. My little link to you. Okay, so once you have that link kind of on,
As in you
Does
click.
it just persist?
Yeah, you're like, so you should be just clicking on, share my screen, and then you say, right. Now, if you're using OBS, maybe start a virtual webcam, and then you can share your virtual webcam. That makes sense?
Can you see my video right now?
No.
I have my Discord video up.
Oh, you can see it.
I can do OBS.
Let me see. I can see you. Good looking fella, right? Hang on, I'll press this button. Is it this one? Oh, there's a button, right? Look, brilliant! Right, there's and now we'll get you on the screen now as well, look.
Yeah, let me I was about to say I can either do virtual webcam or
hang on now. We're going to you won't even feel a thing. Hang on there now, we'll get this sorted, look.
Oh, there it is. There we are.
We're gonna keep you at that size, right?
Guy down there.
Oh, behave.
I want to say as well, Fireflies and Two-Tone Murphy, thank you guys for having us today. This is going to be awesome. I'm very, very excited about it. So thank you guys for having me. And Two-Tone, especially thank you to you for having me on today. It's going to be a really good time.
Not at all. Our absolute pleasure. As I said, like, you know, the amount of experience you have in this, it's nuts. Do you know what I mean? This is pretty much everything that you do with your streams, man. I mean, you've always done bush flying.
I think we had in 2020 alone, we had like 6,500 hours of like 90% bush flying.
Wow.
Which was insane. I don't know what we're up to now in 24, but it is my thing. I definitely love backcountry and bush flying. So I do enjoy it very, very much.
That's absolutely nuts, man. Right, now let me see. Can we get the other gadget, which is your screen?
Yeah, let me look at this.
So
Video Ninja. So I pull it up because I do have a few things I wanted to talk about, but every time I try to like send you the link, I don't know if it doesn't do it or how I copy this link.
Well, what you do is you open that link, you click on share your screen, and then I have the same
It's live.
link. It is alive.
Can I send you this? Can I send you the link from here?
Yeah.
Let me see. Check your Discord DMs. Maybe you'll be able to see what I see.
Is that a new one? Yes.
Try that one.
Okay. Stand by. No. It's just showing
very
me.
Strange.
Yeah, it's just showing me your It's just showing me a link to say share your camera.
Okay, hold on one sec.
We're getting there now, lads. Make Cando fly an airliner next.
Good luck.
That's gonna happen. You know, you say it won't, but like,
here we go. Hold on. Copy to clipboard. This link should do it.
Okay.
Now, there's nothing special on there now. It's just the sim. But I do have some things, for, especially pertaining to winds in the backcountry, that we could get into. But that one should actually work. I think that one works.
Huzzah! It worked.
There we go. Very nice. That's my screen.
Sweet.
Beautiful. Again, dude, you said a lot of things that were like absolutely on the money. A lot. There's so much.
I didn't make a complete balls of it. So.
No, you said a lot of things that were really, really on point. But all of those have nuances, right? And I think the biggest thing to like learn about STOL is we can give you umbrella tactics and umbrella rules of backcountry flying, but it all comes down to the aircraft that you're flying at the moment and how you use those rules in that aircraft, right? We can fly anything from the 185 to the Kit Fox to the Norden, but the Norden and the 185 alone are very, very different. But you can apply the same practices that we will learn here to both of those aircraft. You're just going to see very different performances and very different numbers. But at the end of the day, the practices and the what you learn is going to be similar and almost the same. But there are nuances to every aircraft you fly. You just got to learn that aircraft and hone in your skills with that airplane.
Okay. Now, come here. Before we go any further, right? And I never thought I'd have to say this to you, but can you turn up your volume? You're very low.
Yes.
And I have you
can
maxed out. Now,
indeed.
this could get very loud, lads. You'll have to hang on a second. Also, while that's happening, Ghostly Prophet, thank you very much indeed. Just passed his check ride, PPL, confirmed and on the way. I've just decided on getting this Super Patriot. Ooh, but I'm going to installing the Spirit 210 Turbo. Ghostly Prophet, dude, thank you very much indeed. And
How
congratulations.
is this? Is that better?
Not really, no. What's your...
How was output?
That's output.
Oh, sorry, input. How is this?
Yeah, that's loud as balls, yeah. Good man yourself.
How was that?
Yeah, keep it loud on your side and I can turn you down on this side.
Okay, that's 45% in Discord. We good there?
No, go up to about 60.
60? Hello, test.
Oh, yeah, sure. Listen now. It's like you're sitting beside us.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's essentially... you hit a lot of really, really good points. But again, at the end of the day, every aircraft is different. And I said at some point in chat, STOL is relative. Because what's the Airbus A400, right? That's a STOL aircraft. But you look at it and you go, well, it's not a STOL aircraft. It's taken off in, a 1,000-foot of runway. Well, relative to what its competitors are, that's a very STOL performing aircraft. So it's very relative. I believe there's a lot of good STOL aircraft. The DC-3 is a great STOL aircraft relative to the class of aircraft that it flies under. So it's very, very relative, but ultimately there's a lot of great STOL aircraft and you can find something that fits your needs. It's just learning it and taking the principles that we'll learn here through this series that Two-Tone is going to teach you and applying it to the aircraft that you're flying.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All righty.
So do you... Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, no, so I mean, look, I kicked you over the kind of course stuff that I'm looking at. And yes, there is theory, but what a lot of folks will probably learn fairly quick is understanding the theory and getting your head around it is great. But as you say, you got to make it applicable to that aircraft. And this is where muscle memory is definitely going to feature, right? I mean, this is where, okay, I'm in this plane. I know what this likes. I know what it doesn't like. Your worry isn't so much now with the aircraft. It's more to do with the weather and the environment, the terrain, right, the airport, and all that kind of jazz. So what I was going to do with our little airport here was work on conventional takeoff and landings as we usually would, right? And then under your guidance, well, how can we reduce our takeoff roll and get airborne and also reduce our landing, as in make it a much shorter landing?
Right.
Now, again, with the plane I'm using, with the Norden, there's bells and whistles because, there's high lift equipment on the aircraft. But it's going to be applicable, as you say, to any other aircraft. It's just knowing the limits of it and how short you can actually make it, because ultimately that's the target here. Take off in the shortest distance and land in the shortest distance. And, something like you taught me, flying with you, it's how to maintain the slowest possible airspeed for as long as possible without stalling. That, learning how to fly the plane super slow, that stands to you because now you know what the limits are. So you're not worried about it. I mean, I still crash. Sure, that's me, right? But you're flying in and around mountains and you're looking at your airspeed and I got an extra few knots here. I know what I'm doing. That's what it builds. You still get it wrong. Well, I get it wrong. But that's what it builds, and by knowing it.
It really comes down to as well, you want to be so comfortable in your aircraft, especially in the backcountry, that you're not even looking at your airspeed indicator. Mm-hmm. You don't even know what it says. You just know what the aircraft is doing, and you're just so in tune with it that you could turn the avionics master off and you can still fly that aircraft. And that's important because, flying the aircraft at the edge of its envelope, the slowest possible speed that it will go, is really, really, one, it's fun, but two, it's important because you might be coming in to 100-foot, maybe an 80-foot river bar that you want to land on. And if you're not flying that aircraft at the edge of its envelope as slow as possible as it will go, you might have a long rollout, or you might land a little bit short if your spot landing isn't on par or right at the money. So being able to operate your aircraft at as slow speed as possible with a high angle of attack is really important. Some of these river bars that we explore are super tight, and you're literally flying 30 knots with a high angle of attack, weaving through a river just because there's a bar down the way that you know you want to touch down on. And if you overshoot that bar by 20, 30 foot, that's the difference between you stopping on that bar or rolling into the river. So being comfortable in your aircraft is like paramount, that you can fly that aircraft without looking at the airspeed indicator and just feeling it and being comfortable in it, and putting it down like exactly where you want it to be. But it takes hours of practice. It's not something you're just going to be able to jump into and do. But you're absolutely right. Like slow flight is something that I teach so much, whether it be like we're on a river right now. We'll take the guys out to a river like this and just fly as slow as possible. We do a slow race, right? So fly as slow as possible, as low as possible. And if you're in front of me, you're losing. If you're behind me, you're beating me, because I want you to be able to operate that aircraft as slow as possible and be in control of it, because that is what STOL is about. It's just knowing the limitation of your aircraft and being able to operate safely within that limitation. So we can absolutely, yeah, we're gonna up your short takeoff and landing, short takeoff landing distances today for sure. We got you.
So what was probably proven as impossible, you're here to make me go even slower. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Nice.
Your community thinks you're slow, but we're about to make you even slower.
Yeah, we're going to go slower. We're going to go slower. But I just jumping into some of the real world stuff. Yourself and ATC, you've been out looking at STOL aircraft in the real world, seeing what they can do, what they're all about. You got chatting to tons of pilots, learning all about their aircraft. Plus, you have your own real world flying experience.
Right.
With what you know in the real world, looking back into a sim, and this could be very, very basic, but is there anything you could recommend so far as your simulator settings that would be very important to have, turned on or turned off? Like just stuff off the top of your head saying, hey, you want to try this flying? You need to have assists turned off, for example, or auto rudder or whatever.
I would recommend all assist off in terms of flying. I know everyone everyone starts somewhere. Everyone might not have rudder pedals. You might be on a Xbox controller, which is fine. Use the assist that you need. I always recommend full assist off. In terms of graphic settings, I have always run my sim this way. I have my grass, my rocks, and my trees on ultra. I have buildings on like medium. I don't even fly with photogrammetry on, because you get in some parts close to a city and you have pyramids, right? So those things like city buildings don't matter to me. I care about rocks. I care about water. I care about trees, grass. Those I always have on ultra. Now that's just a preference to me, but in terms of backcountry flying in general, auto rudder is going to hurt you. Really, really going to hurt you. You're not going to be able to operate the aircraft in the manner that it needs to be operated. So I like to fly again. I have my sports pilot's license, so I understand how aircraft work, but I don't like flying with assist on. It at the end of the day, if you understand how an aircraft operates and how the flight controls work, you really don't need assist, and it will benefit you in the long run to have those turned off for sure.
Okay. Right, well then what I'm going to do, I'm going to fire up this aircraft. I'm going to take off, fly a quick circuit, and bring it in for a landing. And as I said, the zones I'm looking for on this is going to be that third line on the runway in. All right. So
are you live? Are you live on my, because you're still showing my screen. Can I see you?
Yeah, so what will I do? I'll do one of these. And I'll do one of those. So you'll see it on Twitch, right?
Okay.
So what I'll do on this, I'll disappear you. You can just sit back there now and stay beautiful. And I'll fire this one up. And then when I land, we'll jump you back on and you can give us the brief then on it. That fair enough?
Yes.
Okay, sweet. Right.
Absolutely.
Don't go anywhere. Don't even press anything. Right. Just,
No, we're going to analyze.
We shall analyze. Excellent. Right. We'll be back to you in a jiffy so. Sweet. Right. Time to judge. Okay. So here we are. And hopefully this is all working now. Here we are with a northern gorgeous plane. So we need to hop out and we need to clear all the stuff off the plane and hop back in again. Right. As I said, this aircraft from Friends, absolute friggin' gorgeous. It's just a stunning little plane. So we'll turn these on, turn that on, turn all the stuff on. Close that. Fuel, let me see. Prop, that's grand. Your fuel lines are like in here. Yeah, we got half gas. We're okay. Right, see, nav lights on. And let's see if hopefully this will hopefully she starts, right? No. Is there a fuel tank? I forgot to... Oh, Jesus, what a rookie mistake. You can bring me nowhere. 1, 2, 3. Yes, 4, 5. I'm after forgetting something.
Can I get a refund?
No, you can shag off. I forgot something terribly important, but I'll figure it out. It's fuel, isn't it? Between your feet, under your seat. Yes. Now.
Oh, Jesus.
That was a trick question. Right. Anyway, off the brakes. As Kando says, we don't even need this stuff, but we'll turn it on for the sheer crack of it, right? And we'll ramble over here.
We've done studies now. 60% of the time, it works.
Every time.
Every time.
Isn't this like a cool looking machine? Right. Okay, this. Get our WAG lights on because why not? Reset all of this. And you can kind of see already, look, I mean, look at the challenge we have trying to see out the front of this plane, right? I forgot the days. Right, anyway. You think you need this plane? Everyone should have this plane. It's so good. Okay. Now, I'm not going to bother with flaps. Not going to bother with any of that, but let's just see, in terms of our takeoff roll, how long this is going to be, right? If I can do this correctly, we'll do it in such a way that we are just before that line. All right. Just before that line, we'll edge our way forward. All right. So that's our spot. So with no flaps, we're just going to roll and see what happens. Are we ready? Power coming in. Easy now. Keep it on the runway, Murph. Oh, Jesus. Right, get up, see that, see. Now that was with no flaps, right? And what we're going to do, we're going to spin around. With sounds. Man, isn't it gorgeous? So we'll fly around and let's see what happens. That was lively, yeah. What was that? Listen, Mew, shut up. No one asked you, right? Listen, we're all learning. I probably applied too much power, right? It'd be grand. Right, so the bridge. We've loads of little visual reference points. So we're going to overfly the bridge and then ramble back in, right? Now, looking at our speed, we're doing about 90 knots, but we can slow that right down. Alright, circle in. Watch the spin. Chase the buttons! Someone's pressing buttons. Okay, so we're a little bit high, we're a little bit fast, but let's see what happens, right? And again, no flaps. Not using any flaps. So, we want to aim for the third line. There's a touch. Look at our speed, look. Now don't tip over, you muppet. Right. So, I didn't use any flaps at all. And based on that, I used the third line for a touchdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It took me to the 8th line to get the airplane stopped. All right? That makes sense? Right, we'll jump back over to Cando. So Cando, how did we do?
All right. Well, with no flaps, I mean, this is a really, really lifty aircraft. I say lifty. It's got a lot of lift to it. But there's a few things that I've learned with the Norden in particular. And again, every aircraft is different. If we take, for example, I think what's the biplane? Little sport biplane. Or I'll just say this: there's certain aircraft that prefer main gear landings, and there's certain aircraft that prefer tail wheel landings. Right, main gear being 2-point, tail wheel being 3-point landings. The Pitts, thank you, chat. The Pitts prefers a 2-point landing. This is definitely a 3-point attitude aircraft through and through. It really, really benefits the pilot to keep back pressure on the stick throughout the ground roll and the landing. This is a 2-point or a 3-point attitude aircraft all day in both takeoff and landing. So on your takeoff, you got a little squirrely. I would honestly recommend you do another no flap takeoff and keep about 10 to 20% back pressure, and it's just going to lift off the ground. The wing profile on the Norden is amazing. We've got the winglets on the side to really keep that airflow and generate lift. So I would say do another takeoff with no flaps just so you can see it with back pressure. Of course, all tail wheels are a little bit sketchy on takeoff. You definitely don't want a ground loop. And this one will once it gets on its main gear at low airspeeds. So in the Norden, and there's a few other aircraft that are like this, back pressure is really important. Draco is actually another one from Got Friends that enjoys back pressure. The more pressure you can keep over that tail, the more stable it's going to be. And you're not, we've talked about aerodynamic braking and creating this drag with the wing and the profile that it sits at. You're really not losing much takeoff distance. It's still going to really perform in that attitude that it sits at in that 3-point position. And for those of you going, well, what's a 3-point position? It's how you sit, right? We want to land how we sit. That's 3-point. So I would recommend doing another takeoff with no flaps with like 10 to 15% back pressure. And then on your landing, again, this aircraft generates the most lift I've ever seen, and you didn't do any flaps. So of course we're not getting much drag. We've got the slats there, even more lift. I would recommend maybe let's try no flaps on takeoff, and then you just maybe add one on your landing, and see how we go there. But when I teach people how to fly the Norden, I always tell them, I constantly see it over and over because it's a very popular aircraft. I see a lot of people come in and fly it. They're always coming in flat. And what I mean by flat is like main gear first, tail wheels up in the air. The reason they come in flat is because they don't understand how slow this aircraft can fly. A steady speed for this is 27, 28 knots, which is unbelievably slow.
What?
So people come in, they approach at 36, 38 knots. Well, the aircraft still wants to fly. It's not ready. You can't get that nose high without gaining altitude. It's a really, really slow flying aircraft. So one of the biggest things in the Norden that you have to learn is that it wants to fly slower than you think it can fly.
Okay.
And once it gets to that point, then you can manage it. But a lot of people bring it in way too fast. And way too fast is 36 knots, which is insane. But that's too fast for the Norden. It doesn't want 36. It wants 30, So definitely bring that energy back on your approach, and I think you'll be solid. So let's do one more.
Okay, so what we'll do...
Back pressure.
Yeah, let me do this with a back pressure on takeoff, no flap, and then coming into land, get that speed right down. Don't approach it straight. Try and come in on a 3-point with some flap in there as well, and keeping that speed as low as I possibly can.
And it's kind of we always talk about power energy management, right? Pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. If we pull that nose up the aircraft is going to slow down. If we push that nose forward, the aircraft's going to speed up because we're pitching down. If we add power, we're gaining altitude. If we reduce power, we're losing altitude. So it's called the, I forget the actual name of it, but it's like a triangle of inverse, like power inverse. So normally when you fly, if you pitch up, you gain altitude. If you pitch down, you lose altitude. Well, now if we pitch up, we lose airspeed. If we pitch down, we gain airspeed. If we add power, we gain altitude. If we reduce power, we lose altitude. So it's all inverse of what you would normally do just in a cruise, right?
Okay. Right, so I'll try this, and then we're going to get you to try it then, because you can show off, right?
Okay.
Right, cool. Let's do one of these, and we'll join you back in a few moments. And let's see what we can do here. Ghostly Prophet, dude, thank you very much indeed. Have a great one. Right, here we go again, Jemima. So we're not using flaps or slats. So Kando says use a small bit of back pressure. That's exactly what we're going to do, right? And let's see what happens now. So small bit of back pressure. Look at that. Straight up. Straight up. That's without any flaps as well. That was nothing. That was, yep. And there was no squally. There was nothing. You heard the stall bell, but like, we have sufficient power on this thing. Like, see the difference? Like 10 degrees, small bit of back pressure. Crazy. Right, let's circle back. And don't worry, we'll have multiplayer turned on because I want all you guys to be able to practice this as well, right? I reckon we were airborne before the third one, right? Right. So we're going to get around to the bridge, and then it's our speed, right? So we're going to drop our speed right back here. One notch of flaps, man. Look at that nose jump. Okay. Now we're high. But let's see what happens. We're probably too high. Horse the flaps into it. Okay. Now try and maintain that speed. Look at that, 30 knots and a bounce. But even as high as we were, I mean, don't worry about like the mess that we made, but see the difference with a bit of flap and the height? Our first stop was at the 8th line. The 8th line. We got down on the 2nd line, and that was not a stable approach. That was all over the place. It was a rubbish approach. And that's where you learn more about approaches, and we'll be doing more about approaches, because a lot of time, you know, any landings that I do, conventional landings, be it in a chopper, airliner, plane, it doesn't matter. Your approach, that's where the hard work comes in. You suddenly realize you're out of position, you're out of form before you get to the runway, and you're just going to go in and plant it anyway. That's where you end up making mistakes, right? Your approach is critical. However, what Kando has told us, just by putting small inputs, check our speed, get our speed way down. We kind of hovered around the 30s. The approach was crap, but just before touchdown, we were sitting on about 30 knots. The notch of flaps, and then when we did touch down, because our forward velocity, our momentum was so slow, we stopped in, like, compared to our last run, we stopped in almost zero distance, which is absolutely nuts. So we'll bring Kando back on. Oosh. There you are now. Did I do good?
You did great. That was phenomenal. Just that little bit of back pressure. And I failed to mention this, but it was fun to watch you almost ground loop it there. You want to keep the same back pressure on your landing. So the reason that we keep this ground pressure, and I try to teach this way because this is how I learn. Don't tell me to do something. I want to know why I have to do it, right? So the reason that we keep that ground pressure is we have what's called a steerable tail wheel. There are castering tail wheels, which is like what's on your shopping cart or your buggy, whatever you call it. What do y'all call them, Murphy? I don't know what you call them over there. What do you call a pushing cart or a little buggy, like a shopping cart?
Trolley.
Like a trolley. Like it's if you picked it up and you were to spin it, it would just spin freely. So it's important that we keep our back pressure so that we actually have weight over that tail wheel, because without that weight, we have nothing that's actually steering us besides our rudder and our brake pressure. Now we have our rudder, but at those slow speeds, we don't have a lot of authority, aka we don't have a lot of wind flowing over that rudder to be able to steer us. So it's really important that we get that tail wheel down at those crazy low speeds. We're touching down at 25 knots. There's not much airspeed flowing over our rudder. So it's important that we get that tail wheel down so that we're able to steer properly and keep ourselves aligned with the runway.
Okay. That makes total sense.
All right. So, yep, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so we're going to bring up your screen. I'm going to get out of your hair, and if you're able to give us like a running commentary of what you're doing.
Okay. You want me to do full like flaps like how I would in the backcountry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because it's we're going to learn from you, right? Okay. Don't listen to me. I lead you astray. But I've turned on multiplayer on my side, so that'll probably take a minute or two to kick in, and we'll hopefully get some folks up on the screen. But I'll get out of your hair. Now, I've no audio from your sim, so you're going to have to make your own kind of sound effects, right?
I think I can turn that on.
Oh, right. Okay, sweet. Right, well, I'll get out of your hair. I'll disappear to here. Now, if I did that right, hang on. No, I didn't do that right. Jesus, then I'm such a muppet. Hang on. Right.
Do you have sounds now from it? You should have sounds.
No. I think that's a limitation of what the VDU does, though.
Okay.
But, right, let me see. We'll do one of these, right? That's just Cando. And if we do one of those, and the screen might look weird, but right, that should be you good to go.
Okay. All right, cool. So what I normally like to do, and this is just kind of like a universal kind of checklist. Most aircraft prefer one notch of flaps for departure. Again, you just saw Murphy take off with no flaps. You can absolutely do that. For me, I am going to fix my Toby first. And then I'm going to do just one notch. Just one notch of flaps is enough for this Norden. I have full brake pressure applied. You can also do a rolling start, but I really like full brakes. So what we're going to do, we're going to add some back pressure here. We're going to add full power. And we're just going to release the brakes with good back pressure. And we're off. Now, once we have positive, watch out for that moose, by the way. Once we have positive rate of climb and airspeed is rising, we'll go ahead and reduce that one notch of flap. So we'll just do a pattern here like Murphy was doing. And we're just going to come around. Now, one thing I do teach, especially when you're getting comfortable in the backcountry, is your final approach, your final is like the foundation of your home. If you have a rocky final, if you have a really unstable final, the house probably isn't going to stand too long. So when you're learning, I really, really recommend giving yourself a long final. What that does is it allows you to get your airspeed under check right around that that slow flight range. So for us, we're looking for 35 knots and below is really, really nice, right? So we give ourselves a long final so that we can get our airspeed stabilized, and we can also use our power to adjust for our altitude, because we want our altitude to be on the money, especially when it comes in to spot landings. So we're going to get down, we're going to go past the bridge here, and we're going to kind of give you guys a few tips of the trade when it comes to setting up an approach, right? So a few things that I like to do is once we get set up on this final, you're going to quickly watch me do it. I'm going to walk you straight through it. So one thing we're going to do, obviously, we're going to pull that power back. We're going to go ahead and start turning our base. Now, once we get on our final, which should be a pretty long final, we're going to pick a landing spot, and I am going to put my landing spot right at the numbers. So right at the numbers is going to be my landing spot. I'm going to go 1 notch, 2 notch of flaps, and we are a bit high. But we're going to pick our landing spot, and we're going to get our airspeed nice and low. I'm going to do a little bit of a slip here just so I can get back into range. Once we have our landing spot, my goal is to maintain that landing spot directly over my nose. Okay? We're a little bit high here for our pattern. Directly over my nose. Remember, pitch is for airspeed and power is for altitude. So if we're a little bit low, we're going to add some power. If we're a little bit high, we're going to reduce power. There is our numbers right there. We're doing about 34 knots. And all we're doing is just managing our airspeed with power, or sorry, with pitch and power. It's a constant dance. And we're going to be just a little bit long. And we're just going to flare right there. Keep that back pressure. And now we're in the money. I'm going to go around because I wasn't super happy with that performance. We definitely had a little more altitude than we wanted. So we're just going to do a quick go around here. And we're going to do it again. This airplane wants to fly way slower than you think it can fly. So don't be kind of disheartened when you come in high. Everyone comes in high. Everyone comes in a little bit too fast in this aircraft. But the goal, again, is right above our cowling, right above our nose. We want to pick our landing spot. We want to keep that landing spot there via pitch and power, right? We pitch for airspeed. We use power for altitude. So if we're too low, we add a little bit of power. If we're too high, we reduce a little bit of power. And our pitch, we'll set our pitch for our airspeed. So I think if you're in the Norden, I would kind of aim for something around 30-ish knots. 30 knots is a pretty solid spot for everyone to kind of aim for in terms of your approach airspeed, which sounds ridiculous because it is really, really, really slow. But again, we want to pitch for airspeed. We want power for altitude. So here we are. Right here, again, we're a little bit high, but that'll work. Now, I can't really see the numbers. We got a lot of people out here. Let's go ahead and get rid of some nameplates. Maybe not. There we go. All right, now we're behind the power curve here. We're a little bit low, so we're going to add a little bit of power. Just going to bump our power up. And this is with full flaps. Airspeed is looking nice. I could even bring my nose back up just a little bit to get a little slower. We still have our numbers there. We're a little bit low. We're going to add some power. We float just a little bit. We have our back pressure. We're easy on the brakes. And stick is always back in tail draggers. Stick is back because we have something very valuable and very important to us right on the front of this aircraft. It's the prop, right? How many people in chat have ever come in a tail dragger and hit the brakes and just nosed over and the engine shuts off? Maybe if you're in the classic aircraft simulation J3, your prop shatters into a million pieces and you catch on fire. It's happened to all of us. It happens to me a lot, right? So stick back at all times when on the ground in a tail dragger. When it's landing, taxiing, stick is back because you never know if you're taxiing. I've had this happen in real life. I was in a nose wheel aircraft, but I was taxiing on my long cross country. It was my last stop of the day. It was done. All I had to do was head home. And I was taxiing back and a pack of dogs ran right in front of me. And I quickly stomped on the brakes. Quickly. And I was just taxiing. I was probably going, I don't know, maybe 5 knots, 8 knots. But I quickly stomped on the brake. Imagine if I was in a tailwheel aircraft and I didn't have my elevator back. Then we'd probably maybe be in a little bit of an issue, right? So when you're taxiing tailwheel aircraft, you always want that stick back so that you have that weight down on your tail wheel. All right, so I'll say this. Let's do, I think we got a lot of guys coming in, and I'm over here just blocking up the runway. I see a lot of really good approaches, though. Beautiful. That's a beautiful approach, Toto. Nice. Yep. Good speed. A little bit fast there, Fierce Wolf, but not too bad. David Bay, Slip and Draco win. Nice. Very nice. Very nice. steeper coming in. We're going to do one more. Yep, I think we're supposed to be looking for that third line. That's what Murphy said, which is important. And again, we said it with Murphy. It's important to pick a landing spot and hit that spot, right? The analogy, or what I always tell everybody, is if we're in the let's say we're in Alaska and we're on a river and we've got a bar that's 200 foot long, okay? And we know that our aircraft can land and stop in 150 feet, right? So we're good. We see this 200-foot bar. We're good. We can make it. If I overshoot that landing by 50 feet, am I going to make it? I might make it, but I might not. So hitting your point and this reference that I'm telling you of keeping that stopping point or keeping your touchdown point just above your nose and working your way in is really, really important. And there's a lot of tools and a lot of practice that we can do to get there. But hitting your spot is super important. You're not going to be operating on 3,000 foot runways all the time. It might be 100 foot. It might be 150 foot. So this time, yeah, let's go. Let's try to touch down on our second runway marker, our second line. And let's get everybody back up in the air and see if we can touch down right on that second line. Normal takeoff, however you want to do it. I'm going to do 1 notch of flaps. I'm going to do 25% back pressure-ish. And let's get out of here. Get rid of that notch of flaps. Do we have any questions so far? I'm always open to questions. Oh, Murphy has a question.
Well, I'm just sitting here because I've got the drone cam on watching it, and it's actually it's a great insight to see the aircraft from outside as well, right? I mean, looking inside the cockpit, that's pretty much tuned to your field of view, right? So it is highly advantageous to, you know, you guys, if you're on the ramp and if you're not flying, jump into your drone cam and just look at the attitude of the aircraft when they come in on final, because it kind of, it helps put the, you know, kind of puts the numbers together for you. Certainly looking at a couple of the approaches coming in, and we got some skilled folks here, right? I saw a couple of landings there. I was like, right, yeah. I'm not playing with them lads. I don't know how to do that yet. But it's amazing how, you know, how subtle changes, right? When it comes to the use of flap, the use of your speed, how subtle those changes actually have such a massive impact on what the plane is doing and how you can actually get a landing. It's mad.
Yeah, and another thing I teach as well, especially I always teach people 3-point landings first, because there are some aircraft in the sim that do main gear 2-point landings really well. There are some that like really struggle to do them. But one thing I always teach too is sit in the ground in your cockpit in the aircraft and look at your visual references. Like look at yourself in the aircraft at what you can see. That's exactly what you should be able to see when you come into land. Because if we're sitting at a 3-point attitude, when we land, we should be able to sit at the same attitude. That's where we want to land at. And that always helps a lot, is getting that visual reference from the cockpit into what you, that's exactly what you want to see at landing. So here, we're just a little bit low. We're adding some power. And don't be afraid of that stall horn either. That stall horn is legitimately telling you you're flying at a great speed. It's not like GA where the stall horn should scare you. This should make you happy. The stall horn is, what should I say? It's calibrated to give you a buffer of when you're going to stall, right? All the stall horn is saying is, hey, your angle of attack is pretty high. Just so you know, you're getting kind of close to stalling. It's not telling you you're going to stall. If the stall horn was calibrated to go off when you stalled, then there'd be a lot more aviation accidents, right? So when you hear that stall horn, don't let it alarm you. It's just saying, hey, we're flying slow. You're getting pretty close to being able to stall. just so you're aware, right? It shouldn't be alarming to you. Toto's got a great approach, good high angle of attack. Oh, so right there, Toto, all you needed was just a little bit more power, right? We exceeded the critical angle of attack, which is where that stall happens. You could have lowered that nose just a little bit, added a little bit of power, and you would have been perfectly fine. Hassenberg, just a little fast. Not a terrible landing, but just a little fast. Larry, beautiful. Beautiful landing, Larry. Fierce Wolf, slow her down just a little bit. Let's get that nose up. Remember, pitch for airspeed, power for altitude. You can main gear the Norden, but it gets a little squirrely. It gets a little hairy when you try to steer it on that main gear. Beautiful Haas. Absolutely stunning. Heapster just a little bit early. Again, we want to touch down right on that second mark, which I failed to do.
Angel 1-5 coming in now. This looks good.
Yes, that is a perfect approach. She could cut the power just a little bit. It's a little high. And there it is. That's money. That's money. So I have one more kind of one more thing that we can do to get people really adjusted and really comfortable. And what we'll do on this one, we'll just line up, we'll do our same takeoff, and then we'll go around, and instead of landing, I want everybody to fly as slow as possible, as low as possible across the runway. Because my theory is if we can do slow flight a foot above the runway, we can touch down wherever we want to, right? If we can get really comfortable flying this aircraft really slow a foot above the runway, then we can cut power and drop it wherever we want. So once we get Toto, that's a beautiful approach. Beautiful approach. Yep, that's it. Murphy, in the series now, they've got it.
It's unreal watching them because, like, you know, we joke all the time, right? When I started streaming and we started our group flights, a very large portion of the stream was the landing, right? I had a soundtrack just for landings because they were hilarious. None of us had an idea what to do. And it was like, well, who's actually going to survive this tonight? And now, you know, a couple of years into the sim, the skills that people have developed over time, like, it's frightening, the quality of landings. And it's not like, oh yeah, it looked like a good landing. No, you can actually see everything that they're dialing in. It's finesse. Do you know what I mean? Like, and you see it not only in the bush aircraft. I mean, you see it on everything that we fly, all the way from, you know, GA up to the airliners. You can see the skills that they've developed and how dialed in they actually have them. It's
crazy. Even like I started and I started teaching, and I was like, you know, I know the people who I've taught. I know who can bush fly. And then you'd have Joe Blow come in, and I'm like, who taught you that? I didn't teach you that. Where are you learning this from? Like, you know, the skill level has rised immensely. It's really crazy. I mean, it's pretty wild. I think this style of flying has become really popular, and it's definitely grown since 2020 for sure.
Oh yeah, like, I mean, the enhancements that we have of Flight Sim 24 with the ground details, you know, you can put dents into the friggin' terrain. It's made such an impact, and the amount of aircraft we have now. I mean, we've seen some crackers from Got Friends. We've seen crackers come out from Hangar Studios, right? With the American Scout and the you know, Decathlon, and there's more coming. You know, we know that Got Friends are working on the on that other high-wing aircraft. I mean, there's more and more aircraft being developed that we can really start taking advantage of all this beautiful scenery that we have in the sim. And to learn and to get this sort of insight, it can really make flying so much more enjoyable. Because that's what it's all about,
Absolutely.
right? It's all about getting these different experiences out of the sim. Where, you know, some folks want to fly choppers, others want to fly the airliners, others want to do bush. And I'd say, well, let's do it all. You know, let's do it all, man.
Yep. So on this one, the challenge for this one is set up your approach, pitch for airspeed, power for altitude, but do not touch the runway. I want you to be as slow over the runway as possible, but do not touch it. Do not land. Because if you can manage your airspeed and your altitude to that degree, then you can put your aircraft down anywhere you need to. Okay.
Okay, so I got
This would be a
camera-
good one, Murphy, for your drone.
Yeah, no, I have it set up here now, so we'll jump over. So I'm actually set up on the runway. So the hope here is there's Rex, midlife Rex in the freaking A400.
I see him. Oh yeah, he's huge.
Even the very tall have to fly. But so the idea here is, lads, as Kando said, don't touch down. Keep it above the runway and as close as that runway as you possibly can. You know, if you can't manage a simple foot, keep it within like 5 or 6 feet, but just try and maintain that altitude without touching down.
And as slow as possible. You know, we're not doing 120 knots across the runway. As slow as possible across that center line of that runway. I'm right behind Heapster. Heapster's doing a decent job. And again, if you're getting too low, add a bump of power. If you're getting too high, reduce a little bit of power. And it's all smooth movements here. We're not looking for full power, zero power. We're looking for smooth movements in your power.
That's crazy. And like it's gas as well. I mean, yes, this is applicable to bush flying, but anyone who likes doing the air show stuff, low passes, I mean, this is where your training really comes into it. And the ability to handle the aircraft and maintain flight at such a low speed, but also such a low altitude.
Yeah. And the weirdest thing, and it makes zero sense, but it also makes a lot of sense. The more power, when it comes to STOL flying, when it comes to this high angle of attack flying, the more power you have, the slower you can fly.
Yeah.
Because if I have a wild angle of attack, I'll just throw a number. Let's say my angle of attack is at 30 degrees on my, artificial horizon, 30 degrees. I need a lot of power to maintain that 30-degree angle of attack. So my power, I might be firewalled and flying 28 knots. Because my angle of attack is so high, that's what I need to maintain that speed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very like counterintuitive. Like you're like, what? I need more throttle to fly slow. But that's it. Like, and you might set up a perfect glide slope and come in and just be able to flare and bleed that speed off perfectly. And you don't need any power. But if you have to drag it in, you're going to need a lot of power to be able to maintain that slow airspeed. And someone asked earlier, I missed it, or we got caught up talking about something else. No, every bush plane, every STOL aircraft doesn't need a 3-point landing. I'm sure we'll get into it once we start talking about ground terrain and things like that. There are times when you want a main gear landing, aka the front two tires to touch down and then your tail wheel. There are times that is advisable, but when it comes to tail wheel and how squirrely they can be, 3-point is almost always advisable and kind of the safe way to land them. Beautiful landings.
So like this location, and again, a reason why I went with this location purely down to the fact that it's free. You don't need to download it; it's already there. Where is this now? Press some buttons, Murph. It's already in the sim, so you don't need to worry about buying stuff or whatever. And there's a ton of these airports with this level of quality and detail straight out of the box. And it does help if you get familiar with the airspace, right? Because you're going to know,
Yeah.
your visual reference points for where you're flying and how you're flying. But in terms of the aircraft as well, I mean, I don't know, man, you've flown so many different bush aircraft. You've flown them all, right?
Essentially.
Is there something you would recommend beginner level that isn't going to bite hard? I mean, the Norden, I like the Norden. I think it is relatively good for beginners, but it does bite, right? And the Draco, I would put that more advanced because that thing that'll bite and swallow. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I would say contrary to popular belief. I mean, if you're familiar with like 172s and you're kind of familiar with Cessnas, I actually don't hate the 185 in terms of freeware. Freeware first. I think the 185 can be pretty forgiving, and its speeds are similar to what if you've flown a 172 in the sim. I actually really like the 185. It can get a little complicated, but overall, it's not terrible. When it comes to payware, I always recommend aircraft of lower horsepower first over higher horsepower. Over here, and I know you guys are F1. In America, it's NASCAR, right? In NASCAR, you don't start at the Cup Series. You start at the Xfinity Series, right? You have restrictor plates. You're not getting all the horsepower of the Cup Series yet. You're starting at Xfinity because you got to learn the ropes. And I personally believe 100 horsepower is almost the perfect amount of horsepower to learn backcountry because you're not overwhelmed with a lot of power. You're not overwhelmed with an aircraft that is super, super capable, but you can get the basics of backcountry flying in something that's simple and low horsepower, and you learn the basics there, and then you can upgrade to a little bit higher horsepower. So my progression has always been the RANS S7S is like my favorite to starting point, or the Parallel 42 Kit Fox, the low and slow, the 912 Rotax, and then upgrade a little bit. You can go to the higher Kit Fox engine. I think the Norden would work yourself into there, but the Norden has some other features like these slats that can get complicated, and it's a little squirrely on its main gear. So I always recommend starting low horsepower. The 170B is also another great freeware option to start out on. Really, really forgiving. You can kind of beat it up and it just does what you want it to do. But yes, for sure. Like the double ender, someone said the double ender. In my mind, the double ender is one of that's like advanced bush because there's a lot going on and it's really easy to get frustrated with an aircraft like that if you don't understand everything or you're not super skilled, because you put full flaps in the double ender, you're going to stall pretty quickly unless you know how to navigate that situation, So yeah, the RANS S67 or the RANS, S6S, sorry. And the 170B, I think the 185, if you're used to flying 172s, can be a good start as well. But some of those are some of the best just to get started on.
Okay, sweet. And of course, there are developers who will hone in specifically when it comes to, backcountry bush flying aircraft. Got Friends, of course. Hangar Studios are up there as well. Parallel 42 have done some. You'll see where there are the third-party developers who really hone in and they look at all these details when it comes to specific aircraft. So you have a lot of choice. If this sort of flying is enough to kind of tickle your fancy to say, yeah, I want to fly more. What was the other one? Wasn't it the classic air simulation cast, the Cub? That's just a beautiful airplane. and tons of features. So if this, if these aircraft or this style of flying, is putting a smile on your face, well, there's a whole rabbit hole of stuff you can dive into. But what we might do now, Kando, right? We're gonna change this location from being.
Oh, no, wait. Can I add something to that?
Yes.
Because I've got this a lot. A lot of people are like, I don't want tail dragger, or nose wheel aircraft can still be bushy. There's a lot of those as well. I've named a lot of tail draggers. I love tail draggers, but the 207, the 206, this freeware on FlightSim.to, you can bush nose wheel aircraft. The Aeroprat that's coming out from Got Friends, they are out there. I don't want it to sound like you can't bush a nose wheel. You can. There's just limitations to that. Sorry, Murphy.
No, that's good. That's good. And again, that's where you're going to see different challenges. And looking way down the track, if folks are interested in doing e-stall, they could choose to enter a category specific to that aircraft type as well. If this, I want a nose dragger on this because I like flying these, yeah. And it is a different kettle of fish. I mean, tail dragger to nose dragger is similar to, like, for a heli pilot, wheels or skids, right? It's the same, yeah. But it's very different. Different logic needs to be applied for. But no, what I was going to say, we might jump over now because I have a list of kind of backcountry airfields, right? Okay. You're going to know most of these, but there's great resources over on the Flight Sim forums, the main official forums, right? And there's a lot of freeware options, a lot of payware options as well. But there's one airport in particular which is kind of middle of the road difficulty, right? It'd be kind of classed as, it can be quite difficult. And I think if we all load in there, that'll kind of lead us nicely into our next kind of area. And this is all about scouting the airfields, figuring out the airfield before we actually jump and start doing our stuff, right?
And CTDing all morning.
Really?
I just CTD'd for no reason. Yep.
Jesus. Did you try shouting at it?
I know.
Right. So let me think. Now, it's going to be tight here, but guys, if you load into Thomas Creek, it's 2 Uniform 8, right? 2 Uniform 8. If you want to load in there, give it a couple of minutes. This particular airfield, the airport, it is it's just one of those difficult ones, right? It's one of those difficult ones. It's in Idaho. And what we're going to check out here at the airfield is, looking at what it is we need to try and figure out when we're choosing kind of, that bush environment. All right. So there's our aircraft. Reset some stuff here now just for a second. And we'll turn on our little livery. Got Friends made this, it needs a fancier name that I'm going to give it, but effectively it has this real-time livery changer, and it's absolute pure genius. So, Kando, all I've done, I'll give you a break there if you want to grab a breath. I'm just after loading into 2 Uniform 8. While
I'm back.
You're back. Sweet. So what I want to do here, I just want to show the location of where we actually are and how different this little field is, this airstrip is, compared to where we were flying. So straight away, you can see the first thing, the runway is a good deal smaller. There's obstacles on both ends. You got trees and then sloping terrain on one side, and then you got a hill and sloping terrain on the other side. Not only that, there's trees all the way around the area, and you're also in a valley, meaning that you're going to have winds rolling down in over the hills on either side, and crosswind. Density altitude is also going to be a thing because we're up in the mountains. So these are all the things. Before we even figure out, how they impact us, we need to identify they're going to impact on what we're doing. So even when we go back to where we were at 42 Bravo, 10 or 15% back pressure, you're going to get airborne. That's all well and good, but you do something like that here with so many factors now going to impact on what you're trying to do. You need to start thinking about it in a little bit of a different way, right? So for instance, and again, we'll get Kando to explain a lot of this stuff, right? But it's your terrain consideration, right? Obstacles. So we can see straight away, yeah, we got obstacles. We got trees, and we know now in flight sim, trees are dangerous, right? Trees are bad. They'll bust you. Cliffs, hills, water at the runway ends. Again, you run long, you're going to end up in the drink, right? Also, the slope. Is there any slope here that we need to consider? And if so, well, how is that going to impact on the performance and capability of our aircraft? I mean, looking from the drone camera, you probably said, yeah, there's no real slope there. You guys see the slope now, right? There's a slope here. The runway is on a slope. So these are things we need to consider. Other things then, the approach paths. We're in a valley, right? So we got to figure out, okay, well, what do we need to do here? In the easier world, kind of your standard general aviation, you would be looking at airports like this. You would have charts. They've published arrivals or departures. They've published, NOTAMs that are specific to the field in terms of approach from this side. Be careful of that, power line. Don't come near the airport between these hours. If they could have minimum weather requirements, right? As in, it's density, altitude. If it's any higher than 6,000 feet, forget it. All this kind of stuff, right? And then what we'll do here, between checking out and understanding the terrain, we're also going to tweak things like density, altitude, and seeing how that will make such a difference. So the aircraft that we're using, they're fast, they're light, they're nimble. You throw density, altitude on top of that, these things, they're going to be like trying to maneuver a blimp. It just doesn't work that well. So that's all I was going to say, Cando. So I'll jump it over to you. So I don't know, are you familiar with this airfield? Have you flown in and out here before?
I am. I'm very familiar. It's Idaho, so
he knows Idaho.
I love all of this. This is really, really important. I have a picture that I was going to use of another airfield, but we can actually just analyze this one. One of my favorite things, and I think it probably is my favorite thing to talk about, is because it has burned me so many times. And that is how wind interacts with terrain. And when you get into the really, really, really good backcountry areas, Idaho, Alaska, Oregon, Washington, Canada, you get into these really nice, beautiful areas to fly, it inherently becomes more dangerous because our terrain is beautiful, but it will also kill us really, really quickly. So the easiest way to think about this and just to kind of start to understand why this terrain is dangerous is because of how wind flows. Wind flows through terrain and mountains and ridges just like water does, the exact same way water does. So if we have let's say we're sitting here at Thomas and we're looking down, I don't know, opposite way Two-Tone is looking at, but we can do it from the way Two-Tone is looking at. Let's say we have a wind coming from the right here, right? We're looking down the airstrip. It's coming from the right. Wind flows like water, right? So wind is going to be flowing down that ridge to our right and up the ridge to our left. And you go, okay, well, how does that affect us? Well, if it's coming down the ridge to our right and up the ridge to our left, we get updrafts and downdrafts. So when we take out of this, if you want to turn around like the departure side, if we were to take out of there, Murphy, then we could. Yeah, so if we were to take out of here and we fly straight out, remember now the wind is coming from our left down that hill up to our right. We're going to get a big downdraft there. Not only is it dangerous in terms of just flying, because it can sink us in, but we're also setting ourselves up for failure if an emergency occurs. Because let's just say we take off, right? We have this couple minute window of takeoff and landing where we really need to be on our P's and Q's and watch our engines. But let's say we take off here, we have an engine failure, and we're taking straight out into that, and our wind is coming from our left down that hill. Well, guess what? Our engine just failed. We don't have power anymore. We also don't have any wind helping us. It's actually sinking us down into this valley. So understanding how wind works is really, really important. Murphy, if you want to actually, I have to show this picture because it's the best way to explain it.
Do us a favor though. Will you share your screen again? Because I don't think it's working.
Yep. I have it. Oh yeah, what happened? Bastards.
There's
They
always
got me.
one. They got him. Right, well, you figure that out. And what I'll do, lads, because just in case, where is this now? Just in case, for whatever reason, you aren't following Cando. If you're not following Cando's channel on Twitch, Cando does this stuff all the time. A lot of the time they're doing the group flights and the bushing, right? But a lot of the time they're doing lessons. They're teaching, or Cando's teaching. I refer to Cando as they. Cando does a lot of this teaching, right? And
Allow myself to introduce.
cheers, Muse. Ramble on over to Cando's channel. Drop him a follow, and you'll know. Hit the little bell as well. You'll know when he's live, right? And like you will learn so much, apart from just having a good time and flying around and exploring some cool scenery. I mean, you were in Australia there a while ago, and you go everywhere, man. But a lot of these nuggets that you're getting tonight, they're like the condensed down version. Like you'll pick up so much on a live stream with Cando and his community as well, the Candonians. A great bunch of lads, but you'll learn an awful lot from them. This is their thing. I mean, this is what they do. And it's great to see this within Flight Sim, because you're very much, you folks that kind of specialize in particular areas. And for anyone who's either new coming into Flight Sim, be it from it's the first time you're simming or you're coming in on PlayStation or whatever, understanding that all these different communities, there's loads of variety there. I mean, we're no stranger to bush trips. Absolutely not. We've done loads of them, but it's when you really hone in on kind of like the specialists who say, well, look, this is what we do and we do it in detail. It's great fun. There was a question as well, it floated a few times, and I don't think I answered the poor old devil. Who was it earlier on? So the ICAO of the airport we're sat at the moment is 2 uniform 8. So number 2, U for uniform, and the number 8. That's where we are at the moment. But also, we're freaking miles away because we're in Idaho. Why is America such a big country? I'm just scrolling across. The other thing, Visualize was asking, in STOL competitions when on approach, isn't there a certain altitude for the landing to count? So it depends on the competition, right? They might have a minimum altitude or they have a pattern ceiling. But usually they'll score you highest on your takeoff and your landing, the distance. That's what you're really scored on. That's my understanding.
Yeah, there's no really altitude for it to be legal, no. But thank you for that, Two-Tone. I really do appreciate it. And I love it too much sometimes, I think.
Right.
But here,
where's your screen?
Did I not send it to you?
Oh, wait, is that a new one? Oh, it is.
Yeah, I sent you a new link.
Oh,
okay. So what you're going to see is how wind works. I'm kind of low-key obsessed a little bit with wind and how it works in valleys. But this is a really good example of how it can be. Why is it so low depth?
Oh, no, give it a second. It'll figure itself out.
This is a really good example of how it can affect you, right? So this is Grangeville Airport, Kilo Golf Romeo Juliet here. And we would be flying down this valley. This is a little nav map view of where we'd be coming. So we'd be coming down the valley here like this, expecting to land runway 10. Now, this is a one-way in, one-way out runway. So 10 is on the low end, 28 is on the high end that you can see here. So we'd be coming up this valley here, and it's one in, one out, right? So we only have one option. Oh, you guys couldn't see my little nav maps. It's okay. We're going to have a tailwind coming in. Two-Tone kind of talked about this earlier. Sometimes you just have to deal with the tailwind. But what this does is it gives you a really good visualization with my beautiful paint drawings of how wind can affect you. So we're going to be hugging this valley en route to this airship on final. What that's going to do, one, this downdraft is going to sink us to the ground, which is dangerous. It's not fun. But also we're going to have a tailwind when we land right here on this runway. We're going to taxi up to the top, and then the predicament starts, right? This is where wind really comes into play. Now, in theory, it's fantastic because we have a headwind and a downhill departure. Fantastic, right? But, this is a 1,100 foot strip, pretty short. So we have a headwind downhill departure. But if we get too far close to this ridge, it's going to sink us into the ground, right? It's going to drag us into this valley. This is where winds and valleys get really, really dangerous in situations just like this. And this is kind of an extreme example because it's one in, one out. But these are the winds that normally flow through this valley. This is pretty much every day. These are the winds you're going to have. So you really have to understand how wind flows. Again, it comes just over the ridge, downdraft, and then you come in with a tailwind. You turn around, go headwind, absolute must. We're going to get this downwind or downhill headwind takeoff. But if you get too close to this valley, it's going to sink you straight down into the valley. And these winds out here get really, really turbulent. So even it comes down to even where you fly in the valley, right? You always want to fly on the side of the valley with the updraft, which in this case would be behind our airport here. There's a few reasons for that. I'll make them short because I know we want to fly at this airstrip. There's a few reasons for that. We want to fly on the updraft side because if you have an engine off, you have lift. Like that ridge lift is giving you lift to find a safe spot to land. Another reason, let's say our safe spot to land was behind us and we're on this right side of the valley here, we can turn into the wind, which makes our turn a little bit tighter. And then we can reconnect with that updraft side and get back to our landing spot. If we were on the opposite side, the left side of the valley here, we would have a downdraft, and then we're turning with a tailwind, which is going to push us into the valley on the other side. And we're going to talk a lot more about this later down the line. But I just show you this to show you how important winds are. And I have taken people here and sat at the top of this hill and talked about our departure and made a plan and watched people wreck into this hill over here because they get sucked into a downdraft with 10, 12 knot winds and not make it out to go down the river. So understanding winds, which again, we're going to go over a lot, I'm sure, later down the line to where we can do a group flight and analyze each position. But it's really, really important, and it will bite you in the butt. There's a lot of really good YouTube videos of people. I say good YouTube videos. There's a lot of YouTube videos of people having a really bad time in the Idaho backcountry due to things like this. And luckily, we're in a sim where we can learn and just click Y and slew and fix our position and not have to go to the hospital and buy a brand new airplane. But this is what happens in the backcountry. It's really dangerous, but it's less dangerous if you know how to combat it, right?
Okay, sounds good. Sounds good. Your screen, is that full screen or that's just an image? Or no, you're sharing a picture.
That was just an image, yeah. Now
Sure.
I'm full screen. Yep. So here, I mean, we have, I think our winds here, let's see.
I think you need to share a different screen.
This goofy thing. Two-Tone, what kind of website did you send me, man?
Listen. If you didn't, there, look, you fixed it. See, right?
did I?
We do it live, man. That's how. Wait, I don't know. Did you? Is that my? Oh, hang on. That could be my camera. Oh yeah, that's mine.
your
No,
view.
no, yeah, you turned it off.
I need to do entire screen.
Yeah,
Did that fix it?
yeah.
Can you see
Can
me
I get
now?
a refund?
No, shag off. There's no refunds. Yes, it looks absolutely beautiful. Also, Patrick Doyle gifted a sub there to Mr. Mango, sir. Thank you very much indeed, lads. And right, yeah, we're looking good. We can see the situation of what you're doing.
Okay, cool. So here, and we'll go ahead and zoom in to our avionics here because I have no wind data, but we'll pull up little nav maps. That's what I like to use. And we'll analyze our winds here. So let's just say we're going to take off here. And we'll do this if it's okay with you. We'll make this a chat activity. So let's say that we have a headwind on this departure, right? We have a headwind. We have this ridge right here. off of what I just told you, wind flows like water. What are our dangers on this departure? We have a direct headwind. Let's just say it's 5 knots. What are our dangers on this departure? What should we be worried about? Where do we want to fly to avoid our dangers? And this is where we get into the nitty gritty, which I just love. And sometimes chat is just silent. It's like crickets. And I'm like, okay, well, but you guys got it. You can answer, Frankie, but actually don't. So we have a direct headwind. What are our dangers here in terms of wind? Good. Okay, why, Patrick? Why should we fly on the right? Perfect. Everyone's nailing it. We have a downdraft that's going to hit us right in front of us. So I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to show you. We're going to do a 10-knot headwind directly out of here. And I'm going to show you guys what will happen if we just fly like this. So what is that? What's our orientation here? Okay, so it's almost straight out of the north. And we're going to do 10 knots. Right, so we have a 10-knot headwind. And we're going to fly directly out. And I'm going to head to that ridge. I'm going to head to that ridge so that you guys can actually see it. We'll do our normal takeoff. And we're just flying. No worries whatsoever. We're going to head straight out. And we're just, you know, if we didn't know the winds, we're going to head over to this ridge right here. Now, I can already feel the downdraft. Can you guys see it? I mean, I'm actively getting pulled down into the bottom of the river. Now, we've got enough power where we can power out of this. We've got enough power. Absolutely. Well, not only center, but we want to stay to the right. So watch this. Let's go over here. And I'll give you guys an example. So over here, if we have a downdraft on the left side, what's on the right side? An updraft, right? So look at this. Hands off. And we are just actively climbing due to an updraft. So we always want to be on the updraft side of the valley, right? Always. I do this thing on my stream where at any point in time during the stream, you can kill my engine and I'll turn it off. We were in Canada one day on this huge lake. Huge mountains all around us. And I climb and climb and climb and climb because I know there's no spot. Sometimes I just get an inkling that someone's about to kill my engine. So I climb and climb, and we got this long flight that we're about to go on. And I'm on the updraft side. And sure enough, I get to about 8,000 feet, probably 5 miles away from my runway, and somebody kills the engine. So what do? I turn around immediately, and I get in the updraft. I floated with no engine all the way back to, I could have flown 2 patterns around my airport that I wanted to land back at, that I took off from. I could have flown 2 patterns because I had so much updraft. I could have flown 2 patterns around it and still successfully landed. So not only is it an active flying technique to ensure safety, but in emergency situations, you want that updraft to be able to save you when something happens, because we're always flying like something is going to happen, right? We need to always fly like there is going to be an emergency. We don't put ourselves in situations to where when an emergency happens, we're not ready for it. We want to be ready at all times. So that happened. I literally could have made 2 patterns around it and been perfectly fine. We landed, started our engine back up, and kept cruising. So let's do this. Now, we're going to come around. We have a headwind coming this way, and we have this ridge right here on our approach. So I want you to think about it. What is this ridge going to give us when we come in for final? What are we going to get off of this ridge? Because our runway butts right up to that ridge. So what can we expect off of that ridge on final? It absolutely is big. Yes, absolutely. Lift? Are you sure? Look at our ridge. What can we expect? We have a left wind right now coming directly from the left. Or sorry, I'm sorry. No, it's coming. It's a headwind. I'm sorry. That's my bad. It's a headwind. So coming off of this ridge, you're right. We would get lift. We'd get an updraft, which we're actively getting. Because our wind is flowing like this, straight down the pipe of our runway and up here. So yeah, we're going to be really high. That's my bad. I discounted. I forgot where the winds are coming from. So yeah, we're just going to get a lot of lift here. And we're just going to float because we had a lot of lift. We got some speed. We're just doing a go around. Because we ain't going to make it, baby. Another thing, too, that we're definitely going to talk about more once we get into some really good backcountry spots is bush flying is really, really it sounds cheesy, but it's really a cowboy style of flying, right? We all learn GA, we all learn patterns, and, pattern altitudes are 1,000 foot above the airport altitude and all of this. That's all fine and dandy, and we try to stick to that in the backcountry. But even situations like this, could you do a left pattern at this airport? Could you do a proper left-hand pattern at this airport?
I mean, like, I'd probably try, but that'd be me.
You couldn't, though, right? If you were to do a proper pattern, you're not going to be at pattern altitude because you couldn't keep the distance away. Like, you would be in the mountains, So a lot of backcountry flying, and you'll see when you get in the really, like, start reading some of these, like, backcountry forums, and you read the patterns and the approaches to some of these places, they're not conventional at all. They're not conventional whatsoever. You're not going to be able to fly a pattern at some of these airports purely due to terrain. I mean, imagine if that ridge was a lot closer. You're going to have to just overfly it, go down the river, and come back in for a long final, right? So you kind of have to throw a lot of proper pattern and procedures out of the window just because it's really not possible whatsoever. It's not. At least to do it safely. I mean, it's not possible.
And again, like this particular airstrip, I mean, this is kind of halfway up the scale of danger and challenging, right? I mean, there's far worse than this. Yeah. There's a few easier, don't get me wrong, but like this sort of a field, I mean, you start practicing this, it's giving you the options of the wind, right? Updrafts, downdrafts, and then also density altitude is actually at play here today. And there's ways in which you can figure out what the density altitude is. I mean, you can do it manually, right? You can get the pressure, you can get the altitude, you can get your temperature, and you can figure it all out. But Work and Title have baked this in into the sim as default, which is super handy. Because if you needed to, you can actually on your G1000 or I don't know what does the Norden have? Is that a G3? Is it?
E3X.
G3X. You can actually figure out what the density altitude is, right? So I'll show you briefly as Cando flies there inside the cockpit. If you want to change or figure out where you can find your density altitude, well, if you just click on the menu, all right, and then hit menu a second time and just drag your mouse down to setup, and you can find the data bar. You want to click on data bar, and in here, this is where you want to edit the data fields. You just scroll down all the way to the bottom, click change, and it's going to say, okay, well, look, select one of these boxes and you can change it. So I already have density altitude put in, but if you want to click in it, you can put in things like your cabin altitude, your climb gradient, your distance to, estimated time, wind information if you want. But this one, we're just going to put in density altitude. Once you have it set, go ahead and click back. And now you can see up on the top right-hand corner, you have DA. That's your density altitude. So right now, It's very little. And this is live weather. So our actual altitude is 4,442. It's bang on, right? However, we start changing things. If we start increasing pressure and increasing temperature just a little bit, right? You're going to see that density altitude start changing. So if we reset our baro now, you can see that is it lower pressure? We'll go lower pressure. If we lower the pressure, our current altitude is still 4,460 or 4,440 based on the barometric pressure, but our density altitude has now increased. That's now 5,156, right? So you give yourself a hot day with low pressure, or, you know, a hot day with high pressure, that's going to increase your density altitude. Your density altitude is pretty much what the aircraft's engine thinks the altitude is. And it's not any sort of magic. It's just to do with the pressure. So your aircraft, most airplanes, when we're flying them, we got a mixture control. And the higher we go, because the air is less dense, it becomes so much less. We got to change the mixture of the engine. Therefore, we need more air to fuel ratio in order to maintain proper performance. Density altitude, that's giving you an added challenge, because your aeroplane, even though it's telling you you're only at 4,500 feet, because the density altitude is different, the engine is going to perform as if it was at the density altitude, as in 5,730. So in a lot of cases, and you may have seen that before, you know, you try and take off and you're saying, why haven't I getting, I should be able to take off by now. I'm giving it all the power and, you know, I'm not hitting the manifold pressure, or I'm not hitting the RPM. It's because of the density altitude. You need to adjust your aircraft performance, i.e. your mixture, to be able to work with that. Now, it depends, again, how, you know, every airplane is going to be a little bit different. Some can operate at high density altitude. Others really struggle with it. And to be honest, I think the pressure here is a little bit off because, well, it just seems a little bit off because I'm changing air temperature and lowering the pressure and humidity. So I don't think it's fully working right in the sim. Could be a bug, but we can still simulate it. We can still put in density altitude. If I click on live weather, for example, this might give me, let me see. So our base altitude is 4,500 at 2,970 inches of mercury. The density altitude is almost 200 feet above that. Now, that's not dramatic. A couple of 100 feet, that's nothing. But if you're getting into the thousands of feet, that's where the thing will absolutely throw you off. So when you're at these, at any of these remote strips, check your density altitude. And if you don't know how to do it, I mean, there's calculators online. I mean, look, again, I'll give you a link to this. This one is from AOPA. They'll teach you everything you need to know about density altitude, and also there's links there to find little calculators you can put in. But this is so very important for your flying, number one, but also then if you start kind of practicing for competitions, density altitude will have a huge impact on what your airplane should be doing based on what you're used to. You know what I mean?
The only caveat to that, especially since we're in the Norden today, Rotax has a thing called FADEC, which is all electronic. It's also turbocharged. It will help you in high density altitude or high altitude scenarios. But one thing that it will not help you with, just because your engine is performing close to or maybe spot on what it would be at sea level, the air is still thinner. You're still flying through less dense air, which your airspeed is going to be higher, your stall speed is going to be higher. So even if you have a Rotax, because a Rotax is becoming popular because it will perform better in high density altitude situations. I mean, like a lot better. You still have less dense air, so you're definitely going to see performance. Maybe not from the engine, but just in lift alone. At these high density altitude situations for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And like a lot of the newer aircraft are coming fitted with Rotax engines. A lot of the newer aircraft we're seeing, especially from the third parties, we're seeing a lot more Rotax engines in there. And there's huge advantages to them as well. I mean, as Kando said, right, they might not give you the speed performance, but the lift is definitely there. They're also considerably cheaper to run and maintain is them Rotax engines. I mean, the 930? Like, there's so fewer moving parts compared to your Continentals or your Lycoming. They're a lot cheaper in the real world to maintain as well. And I think they're cheaper to buy, right? Typically, like the 912, that's one of the cheapest engines you can get, isn't it?
Yeah, the newest, the latest and greatest is actually what's in this aircraft. I think the 916 IS is their latest and greatest. I think it's $50,000 USD. But yeah, the 912, I mean, they don't have. So here's the thing: FADEC came in the 915. So even with the 912, you're not going to get all the fancy stuff. You're not going to get the turbocharged. You're not going to get FADEC. But yes, Rotax engines are phenomenal, and they do combat a lot of altitude issues that you get from a lot of other engines, for sure. But the 916 IS, like, they're brand new. You can fly up. I've heard up to like 9,000 feet and almost get the same performance as you would at sea level, flying at the beach. They really rip. But again, you're going to get that less dense air. You're not going to create as much lift. Your stall speed's going to be much higher. So you still have to operate and fly with that altitude density. You can't get rid of it completely, for sure.
Yeah, like it's interesting to see the breakdown of the engines. I mean, if you were to compare like with like, Rotax versus Continental or even Lycoming, like I think the words I'm using, complexity, is probably the wrong word. I think when it comes to what could possibly or probably go wrong in these engines, I mean, that's kind of what it looks like. I mean, like the 912, where's the 912? Like to see what the 912 looks like, which now the 912S, that's fairly up there. I mean, that's an engine sitting there. Do we not have like a full picture of it? No?
I also sent you a message on Discord, just a heads up.
Sweet. Where's this now? A 912. Rotax 912. Rotax 912S engine. Dee. See here now. There we go. Like, that's it there. Like, it's, you compare these to even where everything is laid out. They look small, they look taller, but they're smaller. They're more condensed. At least they kind of do. Versus, a Continental,
The competitor for the 912 would be the O200. Yeah, the Continental O200. That's 100 horse. That would be its competitor, I believe.
Jesus, the difference is staggering. So that's the Rotax, which is all spaceship. And
I don't think they can see it. I think you're still on my screen.
Hang on, look. Right. So there's the there's the Continental, right? Which is actually very basic. And there's your Rotax, not basic at all.
Refund.
No, shag off, there's no refunds. Listen, I get stuff wrong as well, right? But yeah, okay, so the Rotax is actually far more complex and far more tricky. And far more.
But with the Rotax, you can run Mo gas in it, so you can take it to your gas station and fill it up. You can also do a lot of work on the Rotax by yourself, where the Continental is kind of locked down in terms of what you can do with it. So there are pros and cons. I mean, to everything there are pros and cons. The price difference is probably the biggest pro and con. I don't know how much a 912 runs, but I bet it's cheaper than the Continental.
Okay, sweet. Right, well, I think we'll kind of use that as our little line in the sand, right? I mean, we've hit 11 o'clock our time. We've taken a bunch of your time, Cando. But I suppose just to kind of go over what we've covered tonight, right? And we'll have more. Like, we'll be coming back to this stuff soon, guys. It's all gearing us up to short takeoff and landing, STOL flying, bush flying, right? That's the whole thing comes to that. Like, tonight we got an overview to what it is, and tonight we've learned real good information from Cando, purely from aircraft handling, and then particularly when it comes to wind, downdrafts, updrafts, where they are around the runway, scouting out the airfields in which we're going to fly. So what I'd say, bit of homework for everyone, practice flying at both locations. We had 42 Bravo, and this one is 2 Uniform 8. These are 2 very different airfields, very, very different challenges. But it's practicing at one and then take what you've learned at one, i.e. 42B, and bring it up to here and see what the difference is going to be. And try it with live weather just to see how you get on. Like as I said, it's with this whole course, it's to give as much information as possible so you're just better equipped and you're more comfortable knowing what to do and when to do it. So Cando, I don't know, man, is there anything... 2 Uniform 8, isn't that this one? Yeah. Is there anything you want to add to that? Or, what would you recommend folks kind of work on for the next few days?
I would say the next few days until the next one, just learn your aircraft. I would say pick one aircraft and really learn it. Learn everything about it. Go up to 5,000 feet and fly it really slow. Remember, pitch for airspeed, power for altitude, and get comfortable flying it slow. That's the biggest thing that I see people do, and it's the most dangerous thing that can happen to you in real life is a spin stall scenario on final. You want to be able to fly the aircraft as slow as possible and as comfortable as possible. Again, I can turn the avionics off in almost any aircraft, and I know just from what the aircraft is doing, what my airspeed is, and if I can go slower or if I need to gain some airspeed. So just get really comfortable in your bush plane. I would say throughout this entire series, pick one aircraft and fly it for the series. Get really comfortable. Know that aircraft inside and out, what it's capable of, what it's not capable of, and just to learn it. And that's the best way to kind of advance. I see a lot of people who come in and they like to switch aircraft a lot. You're not going to advance your skills by flying a different aircraft every 30 minutes. You just got to learn one, and then once you learn it in that one, you can apply that one to another aircraft, right? So I say stick to one aircraft, get in that slow flight envelope and push it to its limits and see where it fails and see where it's still stable and where it still flies. And then we'll get from there.
And remember, lads, enjoy yourselves, right? It's all about having fun while you're doing this. Yes, there's a lot of theory, there's a lot of, core fundamental stuff to learn, but have some fun with it. And it's funny, right? But what I love to see, I love seeing mistakes. I love to see a wing drop or a rough landing, because it's only when you make the mistake you learn from it, right? So really get yourself out of the comfort zone and just have at it. Have fun with the thing. And it's going to be a lot of fun. But Cando, I can't thank you enough for your time and energy, man. You're an absolute saint and a scholar. And as I said, lads, I'll put the a link to Cando's stream there in the chat here on Twitch. And you're on YouTube, and if you're on YouTube, you'll see it there as well. And what's your schedule like this week, man? When are you streaming?
I will be on potentially tomorrow. I think I'll be on tomorrow, and then Thursday, Friday as well. Thursday, Friday.
Sweet. Awesome stuff. Well, listen, thank you so very much indeed. Regards to ATC, and we'll see you again here soon. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you guys for having me. I really do appreciate it.
Cool. Right. I don't do any sort of fancy kind of fade out. Well, I kind of do, but we'll just say good luck to you, do you know?
Oh, Jesus.
Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Right, lads, you have been watching oohcando, and I hope you've learned a bit there tonight and you found it helpful. That's what I mean. Like it's having folks in our community that, as I say, they specialize in certain areas. Right, we've seen that with ATC, with Adam and the lads. We've seen it with the military stuff. We've seen it now with bush stuff. Everyone in our community, and delivery creators as well. everyone in the community, be it ours or the community at large, they hone in on very specific areas where we'll do a little bit of everything, right? But it's great to see, and isn't it, how awesome is it that, you know, other communities are open, they're friendly, they're like, come on, yeah, we'll do this thing. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Then we need to get on to gliders, right? So, yeah, gliders and balloons will be coming soon as well, for sure. But I just want to say a massive thank you to Cando and the Candonians for coming over, and to you guys for tuning in tonight. Hope you had fun, you learned something. The theory element, it won't be as heavy going through the course. There's certainly going to be elements that we have to spend a little bit of time to learn and figure out. But next Monday, there'll be more flying. We're going to come up with a couple of different bus routes, you know, taking off from one location, flying to the next, figuring out what it is we need to learn about, and then start practicing. Okay, we've done a couple of flights, we're comfortable now with the aircraft, we're comfortable with all the theory. Let's shorten our takeoff and our landing, because effectively that is our objective. We need to get you taking off and landing at like a super short distance, and then we know we're getting ready for competitions then. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I would love a balloon guide. I've zero clue what I'm doing, as do all of us. A balloon, you just sit and go, yes, I'm in a balloon. But no, we'll have to look into that for sure. But guys, thank you all so very, very much indeed. I've no stream tomorrow at the moment. If I get back in time and have a bit of time, we'll fire up with something. Just the way this week is falling. We're back to you on Wednesday night with the news. Thursday we have a double stream, and on Friday night we're also going to be launching our new hub out of South Africa. So we've group flights coming up as well. So thank you all so very, very much indeed for the support and everyone tuning in. It's, you know, they're absolutely brilliant. Thank you very, very much, and to Cando as well. Well done, lads. Brilliant. We've started the course. We're one in. It's all behind us now. Now we're going to have nightmares and dreams about the Norden and density altitude and, you know, wind. Only just catching the back end of the stream. London controller. Cheers, Jamie. Hope you're well. Jesus, man, you had a shift today. He had a shift today. But hopefully you guys learned something quite handy. And again, we can continue the discussion. Do be sure to check out our Discord, !Discord. Share all your photos and your experiences of what you've been doing in Flight Sim, or even if you did some real world stuff as well. I'd love to hear about it, and we can chat about it some more over there. So have a lovely evening, and I'll see you all maybe tomorrow, but definitely on Wednesday. So until then, you take care. Don't be that curious. It's not, no. Oh. Did you see what happened to Kane? He just bounced off it. Please, somebody clip just that. Kane Lafford flew into the side at 100 knots. He just literally bounced off it and ended up over here. Someone has to clip that, lads. Kane Lafford came straight in.
Few men even consider the possibility of life on other planets. Yet, across the Gulf...
Jesus! What was that? I was about to say something and you hit me in the head! Christ! Hang on! I found more of these flamingos! Jesus! We're doing a thing, right? We're almost supersonic. Well, we're only at 400 knots. That was the most cinematic anticlimax ever. Yeah, but hang on, give it time. There's still, we're doing it. You're gonna miss the ground, you big ape. Hang on. Bank angle. Just put it in the ground, Murph. Stop showing off. Because it does have crash physics. Watch. This'll surely blow up. All is well in the realm. I promise you can make... Oh, there it is!